Hello. I think I do that same hello every time. Don't tell anybody. All right. Let me pull the chat up. Okay. Hello, Killslayer. Welcome. Hello, Sarah.
Why is it so quiet? Let me bring you up.
We're just whispering for you.
How's that?
Better? Yes, yes? No?
Am I the only one? Everyone's like, all good. It's just me.
Leo, do you want to try screaming?
I sound great.
I don't care for that tone, Leo.
Oh,
I don't think that's
I'm
really
just guessing.
helpful.
There we go. Freaking Discord. Okay.
Joe and his sauna. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Hey, you were that's why I'm late. You're the one who said I had to find someplace less echoey.
Yeah, that's true. I won't judge you then. And I won't comment on the echo, but
Are you in a sauna?
Wait, is it worse?
No, it's all right. I think it's slightly better.
Can I hear?
Oh, dang it. That's what you said
better.
last time, and then you grumbled about it later.
Look,
No, it's better.
see, Sarah is nothing but an expert on this topic, and she insists it's better, so we're all happy
It's
for
better. And it's pleasing. It's this organic wood background. It's very
you. It
cozy.
is nice.
North Woods, baby.
Yeah.
Let's see. Leo, do you want to count to 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, perfect. Sarah, do you want to count to 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect.
Unless
Okay.
I'm shrieking, in which case it will be louder.
Now count to
get
5
excited.
as the Jurassic World revealed protagonist, please. No, I'm just messing with you, please.
3.
Joe, 5, please.
Okay, hold on.
Uh-oh.
So I can try and boost my mic up if it's
No.
not in a good place, but-
You're good volume. I can adjust the slight
Let's make everyone nice and big.
details here.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think that's pretty much
Like
it.
a cheer.
Let us know
Ooh,
if we can
actually,
see it.
I have to go close my curtains because otherwise my dogs are going to see neighbor dogs and they're going to start barking like
That's it.
at any point.
It's a very specific thing. Okay. Sarah, you look so
Yes.
sunny over there. Is something different? Do you have a
look
window open? It looks so vibrant and
It may be.
summerly.
Yeah, it may be that that I have the shades not drawn yet.
That's fine. It looks great.
I get lots of light. I'm very blessed.
Yeah, for sure. Leo, how does that work where there's more light in California? Is that just a perception
Closer
thing?
to the sun.
Is that how it works?
That's right.
I mean, Sarah, we're from Minnesota, so we're all very stupid.
Ooh.
Is there anything to that? Is there something to that
What?
idea of like,
Being closer to the sun.
no, to there
don't think
just
so.
being more sun in California? Is that just a matter of like, on a sunny day, would direct sun hit you harder in California than Minnesota?
That's a really good question. I don't actually know. I say that like I know, but I don't actually know. I just feel dubious. I don't know why it feels hotter here.
Good.
Or like why in Vegas. I mean, a lot of that, maybe some, what do they call that? Well, there's a fun, fancy word for it. The reflection.
Weather?
Oh, damn. Oh, shit. What is it?
I don't know. Okay, and on that, I
Albedo.
don't know. Albedo?
I got it. Yeah. There it
Okay.
is.
California has
That's a Xenosaga villain. I'm not falling for that.
Yeah. It's the measure, what is this? The measure of the diffuse reflection of solar radiation out of the total, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's, yeah.
we
Snow
got
and
it.
ice have the highest albedo.
You bailed
So
out
maybe.
just as it was getting into
Yeah, you were getting to the facts, and then you abandoned ship.
It's
What?
funny you say that, Joe, because it is also a character in Genshin Impact. Albedo.
Oh,
Really?
yeah.
Is
Totally.
he shiny?
Yes.
Well, then he's well named.
Checks out. Okay, ready to jump into this sucker? And Sarah, yeah, you're welcome to jump out. People have done that before after a certain amount of time,
Okay.
so don't worry about it. Just let me know, and we can
I may.
easily swap around.
Yeah. I'll just be on camera until 10 tonight.
Okay. Ooh, okay, here we go. Everybody played the game, right? All right, perfect. Okay. Hello and welcome to the deepest dive from MinnMax, the best, most thorough discussion about Mass Effect 1 on the internet. I am Ben Hansen, joined by Leo Vader,
Thank you.
newcomer extraordinaire, and then we have Joe Juba
Hello.
and Sarah Almalay. Welcome back.
Much obliged.
Sarah, welcome. Thank you for being here. I saw on Twitter you had a tweet pinned that I feel like I felt bad for not giving you credit for it last time, but I just noticed it in this gap since the last episode where we covered the first third of Mass Effect 1. But you directed the Batman trailer for Fortnite?
I did with Brian George, who's in this game that we talked about. He plays Samesh and other people.
Oh, weird. What is it like to direct voice direct a Fortnite trailer?
It's fun. I mean, it's so much fun. Well, because it's like Fortnite, but it's also Batman. So it's like and it's Alfred. So it's like these are known quantities and you're playing with them a little bit, but you're like, keying into the spirit of who Alfred is and the relationship. And Eric Sturpey, who wrote it, is a gem. And so he just really cares about the relationship between Batman and Alfred. So it was playtime. It was fantastic.
Oh, wait, Eric Sturpey, he was at Telltale for a long time, right? He's
the best.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
Let's see, Joe, what have you done with your life?
Well, I've been wondering in the last 20 seconds whether or not there's ever been a spot in Batman, like in the continuity of it. Has Alfred ever had to become Batman? Because that seems like a softball that they must have hit by now, right?
Wow, I love that.
I mean, he definitely is like a fighter in a lot of the lore and continuity and stuff, and has his own sordid, violent past. But I don't know if he's like, and now I will be Batman. I don't know.
I'm not. To be clear, I'm not interested in actually knowing the answer. I just like thinking about. I just want to wonder about it.
Whatever you do,
I don't want you to tell
comment.
me. I just want to enjoy my idea.
Yeah, that's what I've been up to. So there you go.
This is the deepest dive on Mass Effect, the second discussion about Mass Effect 1. In the first discussion, we covered everything in the game up until you leave the Citadel. In this discussion, we're covering everything in the game from when you leave the Citadel to tackling Artemis Tau, Novaria, Pharos, side quests, and everything up until Vermeer. We didn't go to Vermeer, and we're not spoiling anything in the game beyond that point or anything else in the trilogy, so it's a wonderful space for you if you have never finished this game or anything. We will not spoil it for you. And thanks everybody who submitted wonderful comments. How this works is we have people in the MinnMax community play along with us. They support us at any tier. If you support us at any tier over at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, you can submit a comment for us to read. Also, if you head over to Patreon, you can unlock the podcast version of this discussion, all of the other deepest dives we've ever done. We have a full backlog, all of our interviews, Max spoilers, early access to the MinnMax Show podcast, a bunch of fun stuff. So if you enjoy this content, you can support it, or you can join it over at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. All right. We got a lot of comments, believe it or not, everybody, because we had a lot to go through.
I love the enthusiasm.
People are very enthused. It's very fun. Okay. I would consider this the layup of the century, but every time for the deepest dive, we play most common comment. What do you think the most amount of people were leaving a comment about for the middle section of Mass Effect? Leo, you're thinking hard, so I'm expecting something good.
If it's a layup, it's got to be something obvious.
That's right. That's the catch. Yes.
I got one.
It's the Mako, right?
It's
People
the
were talking
Mako.
about the Mako.
All right. Leo, take your guess. Don't let these jackals influence you.
The Normandy.
It was the Normandy. People like the color scheme on the Normandy. They wouldn't stop screwing it. No, it was by far the Mako. Pro Mako, con Mako, side Mako, thoughts on Mako. It was a Mako Palooza in that comment section.
Mako me crazy.
Mako Palooza sounds like an amazing Mako monster truck rally of just like all the worst driving and like.
Oh, that's basically what everybody's playthrough was. Yeah, for this section was their own one-man monster truck rally where just somehow you lose every single round. I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, we had 2 weeks to go through this section. Leo, I know you had a vacation in here. Were you scrambling like mad to get through this, or how was your play session?
I mean, I didn't have time to do a ton of side stuff, but I wasn't pushing too hard. Like, it felt reasonably paced. I was surprised how fast each of the main planets went, really.
Yeah. I feel like, I forget where it was. Maybe it was on the MinnMax Show podcast, or maybe it was in a comment, but somewhere along the lines, some comparison was made for us on the last episode of The Deepest Dive talking to you about Mass Effect. It felt like we were all your parents trying to get you to watch Star Wars Episode 4 for the first time. Isn't it great, 5-year-old? Aren't lightsabers cool? And they're like, yeah, I don't know, I guess. So I look forward to hearing your thoughts this time around. I mean,
I want to butt in and say, like, Leo, if something isn't cool or if you don't like something, shut up.
Right.
Oh!
I think. Yeah.
No, really, like I'm interested in that. I don't
me
want you to
too.
feel like you have to say things are cool because we clearly like them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to be careful about what I criticize by nature of it like being a game that came out when it did. You know, it's hard not to look at it through that lens. Like playing it for the first time now, it feels like a new game to me, and for that reason, some things are falling short just by today's standards. But I don't want to just. It's boring to just dwell on that.
Yeah.
But I also think that that's interesting stuff to talk about because there are a lot of people like you who are coming at it from that place of unfamiliarity. And I think treating it like a new game in that sense and criticizing the things that it does, even if, they didn't know better in 2007 or whatever, I still think that those are I still think those are like valid things to talk about and fun things to dig into. So.
Okay.
I feel like we do that with literature all the time. Like we're always reading, or movies, like we go back and practice that lens a lot. But like with games, how often I feel like the history we just move on to the next hot thing. And so we don't use that muscle a lot to like discuss like, oh, like where have we come from? What changed? What are we now tolerant of? Like, I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah. Even just like waypoint design seems like a huge one, especially in this chapter. I've had so many instances of on the map, it says destination with a big flag on it. And I'll like go to it. And it's like, I'm just in the middle of a cafeteria in Novaria.
That's
Like, what?
your own waypoint you put on by accident. You had the same revelation.
Wait, is that really what it is?
Yes.
Oh, but
You can
cutting
set
this
waypoints,
part
yeah.
out of the
if
deepest
you hit
dive?
A or whatever you're using.
Are you serious? I feel like such an idiot. I ran to that spot and I was like, okay, game, you're so stupid. And it turns out I should have had a mirror instead of a TV, Leo.
Well, if we both did it, maybe it is the game that's stupid.
You never know. Oh my God. But yeah, where's your trajectory at, Leo? Hotter or cooler on it for this section than last time?
I think I would say a little cooler. I liked the main story stuff more than I liked the side stuff, for sure. The side stuff was remarkably samey, at least what I did. Like going to a very open planet that's like a prettier dirt texture than 2007, but still just a big wide dirt texture. And then you go to a big building that is clearly the same inside, but with different boxes around.
Yes.
That didn't make me excited to continue the side stuff.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, that's a totally valid complaint. And what I love is that when I forget where I read this, but like when BioWare was sort of asked about those like repeated environments and stuff, they actually have an in-universe explanation for it. And even though that doesn't make it that doesn't make it more entertaining as a player, the fact that the idea is that like space colonization is still sort of a new thing. So these buildings that they're putting down are like prefabricated structures.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
That's an interesting idea. Sarah, where were you at trajectory-wise for replaying this game from first section?
Yeah, what's interesting actually thinking about it is I think I probably had the same gripe. Like I had the same gripe then and then I do now. Like,
Yeah.
it's, I'm not mad about it, but like it's a slog. And there's some important side quests. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of that's like really important. And it's like accidental. It's just if you go there and then you got to clear a bunch of stuff and it's the most boring and you're just makoing and it's really tough. And then of course it plays a huge role and you're like, well, I'm glad I did it, but woo.
Yeah,
So
I feel like I want someone to tell me what the really important ones are, or the really cool ones, like the notable ones, because there's so much to choose from. It feels really like finding a needle in a haystack for the cool ones.
Do you genuinely want a tip or no?
I do. I will write it down.
I would find yourself wandering into the Armstrong Nebula.
Armstrong. Can you?
Make
we
a
can
little
talk
trip.
about it if you're not spoiling anything coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, that's Geth Incursions, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And it is. And you will find Tali to be very grateful to you for having done that.
Interesting.
I like incursions.
Yeah, so there's that one, which I think is probably the most involved, or at least the most time intensive of those sort of like side questy things. And then, I mean, it's probably obvious, but like this is before Mass Effect 2 introduced something like a formally structured loyalty missions, but you still have something similar to that where the one Sarah's talking about is essentially Tali's, and then you have Rex and Garrus each have one for you too, if you talk to them enough. Rex is like something about his family armor, and Garrus is like tracking down some Dr. Salion guy.
An Oregon, creepy Oregon,
And
selling them on a black market.
the one really important one that the game does not put in front of you hard enough is called Rogue VI.
I feel like, Dr. Admiral Hackett, he definitely tries to push you in that direction before you go to Novaria, or I don't know at what point, maybe it's just like the third mission. He tries to nudge you that way.
It's a level threshold, I think. Like once you hit level 10 or something, then it opens up. But I mean, how different is that from any other mission that you get? You know, it's like, like he's like, Shepard, we need you. Also,
Lance.
That's so good.
And you don't beating heart still.
Anyway, but he's like, yeah, Shepard, you need to go to the. We've got this rogue VI, but that sounds just like Shepard. We've got rogue smugglers in this system that you know. So it's like,
call IT, restart it.
Yeah. If you don't just do it right away, it just becomes another question in your log that you don't realize is important, but it's very important.
Can you talk about
that it was important? It's in my list still.
Can you talk about why it's important, Joe, without spoiling anything? Or just you want to talk about that mission itself?
Yeah, it's totally within our section. So the Rogue VI, which sends you to Luna, like our Earth's moon, has you doing a totally just like run-of-the-mill normal, like, hey, I have to go enter some bases and shoot some stuff kind of thing. And at the end of it, you get your specialization class.
Oh.
So, all right. Now I'm confused because I thought that the mission was on the moon. So I went to the moon and drove around a little bit and it looks great. And then like went into a building and was like, I don't know how I interact with these 6 things or whatever this is going on in here. And then I just left. What am I missing?
You shoot them. You go in there and you go in and there should be some, I think there are enemies around when you first enter the building.
Yeah, there are.
And then when you get to the next phase of the building, there are these rooms that have these like power or like VI construct you just shoot them. You blow them up in 3 buildings. And I guess maybe the game doesn't explain that super well either.
No.
But when it's done, so you know how, like, for instance, if you're like, I'm an adept, right? So I can put skill points in adept and like get better at that, but there's a ceiling to it at some point. When you get your specialization class, it basically gives you more points that you can. I think that's what it is. It gives you more points you can put something into.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just.
So what's your specialization?
So I went to Bastion, which is. I can go on and on about how my class is the correct class to play.
Here we
Mass
go.
Effect,
Here we go. Regular classist.
Well, no, because I think that like Mass Effect as a shooter is fine, but I don't think that's where its real strength is. Like and what I love about being an adept is that the powers that you can use at least sort of add a different flavor to it. It makes it feel less like a normal, like pop and shoot kind of game. And if you're throwing singularity at someone, which Liara has this power too, maybe if you've probably seen it, which is just awesome. It just sends you just like floating in the air, but also physics objects in the area, like, lamp posts and crates and stuff like that. So it's just this sort of like agent of chaos there in the field. But then you can also do fun stuff like crowd control, where adepts have a power called stasis that I guess other squad mates do too, that normally just freezes someone in one spot and they can't take damage. So normally that's handy if, like, let's say there's a big like Krogan battlemaster running at you. You can sort of put him on hold while you take care of whatever situation's going on. But if you're a Bastion, you can damage people in stasis.
Oh, so snacks.
So that means that there are like bosses that I go up against that you can just throw in stasis and then just stand there like idiots and you just go point blank with your assault rifle and they can't do anything.
Boy, I'm glad I went to the moon. This is pretty sweet. That's absurd.
I didn't know that. I don't think I knew that. That's dope.
I definitely need to. Yeah. I think my save is on the moon right now, but I swear I tried shooting those things and it didn't do anything. But hey, Lev submitted a comment here saying the one side quest I will remember the most was going to the local cluster, which turned out to be our solar system. Getting to explore the moon and seeing the Earth just above me as I drove around made me audibly gasp. It is so good. Just like that. Patrick Henderson wrote in saying, on the moon, you can find the CCCP Luna 23 lander, based off the real lander, which was sent to the moon in 1974 and tipped over after landing. I love it. It just tipped over and we can't do anything about it. It sucks. But yeah, clearly BioWare, huge fans of space travel and real space history. I mean, Shepard, obviously named after Alan Shepard and all that stuff. And without spoilers, Mass Effect 3 has the most ham-fisted homage to NASA I've ever seen in my life. Some
I
would
don't
say,
remember.
"Oh my God, Sarah!
I'm gonna have to. I
You
don't remember.
of all people,
I played it the least.
I mean, okay, light, vague spoilers for a thing at the end of Mass Effect 3.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't
Just
do
tune
it.
out for the next 10 seconds. Sarah, they have a voice actor from Apollo 11 at the end of Mass Effect 3. Do you not remember this performance? It is
Don't remember.
unbelievable. Please, as an expert in voice direction, listen to that
Yeah, I
and
will.
try not to shove something aggressive into your ear. Anyways, hey, look at this, everybody. We got a lot of great comments from people. Let's start with the gameplay. Joe, you cracked that seal. Here's a nice basic one. John Skovic submits a comment over on Patreon saying, "Hey, y'all, how do you decide which party members to bring on any given mission? Your two favorites the whole way through. Whoever fits best for that mission story-wise, whoever can unlock things the best. What's your strategy for choosing who's going on these missions?"
I'm really curious about Leo's answer to that one.
Yeah.
I just go with who I want to get to know better at this point.
Yeah.
Which
Who's
has
that?
been mixing between Rex and Garrus and Tali and the Asari character, Liara. And not the humans, pretty much. But it's I've been liking Rex just for his voice.
It's
just always a welcome input in a conversation. There was a part at the end of Noveria where I decided to let the alien race live, and they said the lead alien said, "We'll write songs about you." And where's the quote that Rex said? He said, "Great, bugs are writing songs about you." That was really good.
That's perfect. So do you feel like you're focused now? Do you feel like you learned enough and dabbled enough with the characters where you're like, all right, from here on out, I'm sticking with these two buddies?
I don't know. I think I'm going to keep mixing it up. I don't feel like I've been left behind by bringing somebody who I haven't leveled up yet. I don't feel like it's made a super big difference in the combat.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was sticking with kind of my original crew, which was Garrus and Liara. And I think in this stretch in particular, Liara is really interesting to have for so many of these plot points and stuff, especially Noveria. But then I was like, I like Garrus. He was my boy last time around, but I think it's time to see somebody new. And so I tried to do the underdog move, and so I've been rolling with Ashley and Liara. And believe it or not, Ashley wants you to kill that freaking Ragnash. Step on his head, end him. It won't have it. But it's
Shock of shocks.
right. It's been interesting to see that. Actually, we have somebody who wrote in about that idea. Clemens Zobel wrote in here saying, your squad mates exist on a Paragon Renegade scale, which affects their dialogue during Paragon Renegade choices. The squad mate with the higher Paragon score will advocate for the Paragon choice, and vice versa, the more Renegade mate. From most Paragon to most Renegade, I believe the scale is Caden, Liara, Tali, Garrus, Ashley, Rex.
Wait, say that one more time slowly.
So
Sorry.
Caden's the most Paragon, and then descending order, it's Liara, Tali, Garrus, Ashley, Rex.
So that means if you have Ashley and Rex in your squad,
Yes.
for the Rachni moment, even though they're both sort of on the renegade end of the spectrum, one of Ashley will promote letting
Will
them
she?
survive.
Yeah.
And Rex will promote letting them
She
die.
will.
Yep, so that's what Clemens explains
Oh.
here. So yeah, Caden, Ashley, and Garrus can move around on a scale depending on dialogue choices. I had a playthrough where Liara was more Paragon than Caden because Caden ninja romanced me and was jealous and I was romancing Liara. I set things straight, and I guess that bumped him back up because later Liara had some pretty ruthless things to say on a quest decision. I've even heard tale of making Ashley/Caden more renegade than Rex. Can you imagine Rex dialogue advocating for Paragon choices? That's a fun idea of really pushing people outside of their boundaries, but
Mainly by being an F-boy.
I guess so. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
So I want to quick touch on something there that talked about being stealth romanced by Caden. I
Yeah.
have been, well, I guess without talking about anything coming up in the next episode, I have not been very enthusiastic about Ashley, obviously. And
Give her a chance,
I've
man.
been trying to bring Caden along more often on missions and stuff. But at the same time, I'm also super paranoid about missing those things like loyalty missions and gear and stuff like that. So when Ashley says, like, when Ashley starts coming on to me, I've never flirted back with her in any sort of like obvious way. I've just been not overtly mean. Like, I haven't directly shut her down.
Right.
Kind of gotta, don't you?
And now she's like super into me, and I don't have mean options it's like this must be what a woman feels like on the internet, where if you're just like unless you just are totally mean,
Right.
People will
Good morning to you.
Yeah. So
will
you're,
get an idea. Yeah.
so you're saying I have a chance. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
I mean,
So yeah, Ashley is totally like, you're saying I have a chance when I have given her no indication about this.
Should we talk about the pacing of the romances? Can we do that?
I would love if you talked about that. Absolutely.
Because I feel like we touched on this a little bit with the vision or just other. It feels like I feel like I'm missing beats here.
Yes.
Like I'm not privy to beats that Shepard is having, and that when you combine that with a dating mechanic, it gets real weird. And so everyone, like Liara comes on to you immediately,
Right.
and kind of Kaden, and then she's like, I find you fascinating. I'm like, we were just in the briefing room. Like, you just got on board. What are you talking about? And so, like, there maybe is this implication in the writing that, like, we've had nice banter at the cafeteria. We've stayed at the start. Like, what am I not getting that you are interested in me based on just, like, brushing dirt off from Therum? Like, what are you talking about?
And it's bizarre when it's like
weird.
Mass Effect is held up as, a pinnacle, a lot of BioWare stuff in this era as like pinnacle relationships, romances in games. And it's like, realistically, you talk to a character twice and they're like, hey, you want to go bang? Like there's literally like a dialogue option here talking to Liara where it just said, I am attracted to you. And it was, yeah, you're totally right. After like 2 conversations, it's like, okay, sure.
She's like, I'm feeling there's some attraction between us. And I'm like, based on what? What are you talking about?
You can like do
Hi, welcome aboard. Let's drop the formalities. You and me.
The pants.
I feel like there's a lot between us. I don't know what you mean. It's so, I feel like, I do still believe that Mass Effect is, as a series, has like wonderful romance. And a lot of that is to do with history. I mean, like the really juicy, to my mind, the really juicy, everyone knows I'm into Garrus. I don't know if you can see it in the crop. I have a Garrus portrait right here.
I cropped it out
behind
specifically.
me. But yeah, so I just think that and so the macro view is that you have all this history, and especially with something like Garrus, you can't romance in the first one. Like, that has a really nice build. But this first game that's just so hot and heavy so quickly, and it just, I wonder if it's just an editing technique that just lands weird, because you're like, I need to make decisions about this, and I'm lacking information about the decisions that I'm making right now, based on not having actually hung out with this person.
Yeah. Maybe it made more sense with the longer loading screens. You can assume more stuff happens.
The elevators, there were extended elevator conversations where they got really close and it was really hot. Yeah,
that is true. In every TV show and movie I've seen where people have been trapped in elevators for long periods, they do come out of it closer together.
That's right.
True. Yeah.
No, I think there's really something to that, though, where, you know what it reminded me of, and this is maybe a bit of a tangent. I'll try and keep it short, but like, it reminded me of when I was a kid. I used to watch that first Batman movie, the Michael Keaton Batman movie, over and over and over again, to the point that it almost became a loop to me, where you, like, as a kid, I understood the relationship between like Batman and the Joker and Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale. Like, it's like it always existed. When I start a new watch through of that movie, I'm bringing with it everything from my previous like watch through. So all of that context is sort of was built into it already. But when I rewatched Batman, like a decade later, I was like, whoa, this sucks. At least this like this relationship building, that stuff. So I'm feeling
Batman Returns, however.
that makes way more
very
sense.
thoughtful.
Anyway, sorry.
So anyway, that's what it reminded me of, because as I'm going back to Mass Effect here, I feel like it's the same thing, where my memories of how I interacted with Garrus and Liara and all those folks is sort of colored by all of my eventual interactions with them, and not really isolated to this one game. And in this one game, it is really apparent to me how early BioWare is in figuring out how to establish party dynamics and relationships that I think they definitely figure out later.
Yeah, I agree.
But this is still in a very like transactional phase of like romance and relationships with characters, and that comes through. I mean, this came out before Dragon Age even came out, and Dragon Age Origins was like their romance system was just you give presents to someone constantly until they like you, and then they'll sleep with you. You know, so it's like
Right, yeah.
That was the evolution.
And then by Inquisition, we're not even. I mean, I think there may be exceptions, but like many of the sort of like money shot like scenes of just like yes, we did it, you know, thing aren't of sex anymore. It's like pre or post, and it's like just a really nice beat that's actually interesting to watch and not just smushy game characters. Blech.
Yeah, it lets you have that with characters who aren't your romantic interests. Also, it lets you just pursue that in other ways too. So yeah, I think that it is just it's weird because it feels like a BioWare game, a modern one in so many ways, and yet that specific element, like it feels really weird to only have banter between characters when they're in the elevator. And it's like when you're walking around this weird moon, they very rarely like chime in or talk to each other, and it's like I feel like I've been taught by now that like that's what characters do in these situations. That's how I get to know them.
Yeah, Elena P writes in about that, saying, I've always loved the Mako. Yeah, I know. But this time I noticed something that never bothered me before, the lack of banter between squad mates while you're driving. Yeah. It's such a missed opportunity for more character development and funny one-liners. They wrote all those elevator convos. Why not do something like that for the Mako? I guess this is the one thing Andromeda did better, because yeah, that's true. In the Nomad and Andromeda, they would actually talk to each other. And I'm sure it's just, you know, this script was a bit big and the production was a bit troubled, you know, so it's amazing they got it out the door when they did. But now looking back on it, it is just eerily silent during these long stretches where it's like, come on, start flirting in the car, please, do anything.
Right. And they're not flirting with each other yet, you know, which they will do.
Right. Melissa Louise wrote in about the exact idea about just all the romances feeling really weird and rushed in retrospect. And Caden, you know, told me I'm giving him mixed signals when I was just trying to have a conversation. And, David,
I asked how you word, bro. What?
David Dillinger writes in, and he says, first time playing and I was surprised to get romance dialogue from Liara right after her mother's death. It's just like, I don't know. You know.
You win some, you lose some. One of them.
You know, grief hits everyone real different.
Right.
I'm not judging.
In High Fidelity, there's that sex scene at the funeral. That's, you know, it's possible in other films. I don't know.
Yeah. Makes you think about being alive.
There we go. John Ford himself actually submitted a comment over on Patreon, bringing up the old chestnut here, saying Shepard has a problem with pursuing sexual relationships with their employees or crew.
Yeah.
I mean, how exactly does one break up with an all-powerful, beloved Spectre like Shepard? Power fantasies and relationship sims don't mesh well, which I would be very curious to see how BioWare would handle this moving into the future. If it is like, yeah, has society just changed to the point that now the idea of the Spectre being like, you, me, let's go in the back of the Normandy. It's like, I don't know if this is as hot anymore as it is just bizarre.
Inappropriate.
Inappropriate. Yes.
Round of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. Right. Like, go ahead.
Oh, that comes up with when you talk to Ashley about some of this stuff. Whereas like she when she first starts coming on to you, you have an option to just be like, that's inappropriate, shut it down, which closes off this whole conversation. So I didn't do that. But part of that discussion is Shepard saying, like, I can't fraternize with, you know, the officers on my ship.
Yeah, because she has a mail, as they put it, from her sister, and it's her sister talking about how cute Caden is. And then Ashley comments on that and being like, well, I know fraternizing is against regulation, you know, don't ask, don't tell. Like she explicitly says, that's how it works in space now for just sleeping on a ship.
When you're male Shepard, it's about you and not Caden.
Right, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
that makes sense.
That's a fun little distinction.
Yeah.
So you are canonically hotter.
Yeah, we all understand that fully.
Take that, Caden.
Let's see. Jordan Holmdale writes in and says, I'm playing as Femshep, and in the scene where Liara shares her romantic feelings with Shepard, there was a dialogue option on the left side on the wheel that read, "You're female." As a bisexual person in 2021, I did not care for the heavily implied bi, homophobia, and the phrasing of the prompt. Although I later watched that scene on YouTube, and fortunately, the actual line from Shepard is confusion about how Asari chooses partners rather than just bigotry. Though this prompt still came to me as a relic of a different time and another reminder that Mass Effect is a much more heteronormative than I recalled type of game. Overall, I'm still having a great time with the Deepest Dive. Yeah, I saw that, and I think that there's definitely, we talked about it last time, a lot of those situations where the little summary prompt doesn't quite match the tone. And I'm glad that Jordan here actually dug around to see that, okay, in context, it's not as brutal, but if we have to sum things up in 2007, yeah, let's just make it that. Like, what? But you're a lady
It's
alien.
like they needed Shepard to be shocked by the alien way of seeing things. And so that's why you have your female if you're a female Shepard, or you're an alien if you're a bro Shepard, and you're like, okay. I don't know why these are interchangeable to you, but fine. Fungible objections, I guess. So weird. Yeah, but I guess they're just like, if that's the beat you need, like, oh, they do things differently. Look, space is wild and full of people who do stuff. Yeah, there's better ways to do it. I don't know.
Shepard either needs to be, depending on whether they're male or female, needs to either be space racist or a homophobe.
Or just
for that particular
flat out
interaction.
homophobe. In a way that makes no sense because, again, aliens and gender were off the map. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Right.
you know.
But you got to remember this era. I mean, I don't know if you all recall the big sex box headline on Fox News where Leo, I don't know if you recall this.
I remember it well.
Okay, yeah, whereas the whole Fox News segment about this game is all about banging aliens, and
Customize your partner.
is that what it said?
Yes. Just customize who you have sex with. That's the whole game.
I would, yeah.
Tinder 50 million years later. Like,
I went back and
just
watched
do it
some
to
of
each
that
other.
debate because Jeff Keighley then went on and tried to debate somebody at Fox about why, trying to put it in context. And he did an admirable job of just like, this is 20 seconds of like a 30-hour game that's incredible. Like, don't try and boil this down to this is the game where you have sex on your Xbox. Because if people in your audience want that and they go out and buy this game, they're going to be woefully disappointed by the experience here.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of Mako to just log through.
Yeah.
But I mean, was the objection the alien part or the female part?
I think it was just sex in general. I'm trying to remember.
Video games are for kids. So sex in it is
okay. Well, then they missed Jade Empire. Nerds.
Yeah, believe it or not, it was not exactly in their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Let's see. Meet Tornado, just on this train of thought, says, I just want you to know that because of the Deepest Dive, I can't look at Garrus anymore without thinking of the phrase cricket dick. I apologize, Meet Tornado. That is Jeff Cork's phrase, but he has a way with words.
How did we bring it back? I'd forgotten about it.
Sorry to really drill it into your head even more. Let's see. So many areas we could go to. Should we start working through this thing? Oh, no, we didn't even get back to the point about which characters you're bringing. Sarah, who are you bringing on these missions?
Switching it up. I'm keeping it loose.
Yeah. Does anybody stand out?
I like thought I was going to be Garrus and Rex the whole way through. I mean, I'm being a Sentinel means that I can get good coverage. For a second there, I was genuinely locked in because I just forgot about the need to have both electronics and decryption leveled up so I have access to all the things, all the boxes in the world. So for a minute, I was kind of bound because I only had electronics up to a certain thing, so I was stuck with crew members who had decryption up to a certain thing, and then eventually I got them both on, up on my end, up to speed, so I could take anyone I want. And now I'm just kind of swapping it around, including Ashley. I took Ashley on the Tolly thing. I thought, sister trip. I don't know.
Yeah, see, she's not so bad. See, right?
Kimberly is really, and here's me irresponsibly conflating the actor with the character again, but like she's good. And when you talk to her about anything else, I think she's really natural. She's really like, she's got a subtle charm to her. Like, so she was fine on that trip. I didn't take her in front of the Raccoon Queen where she was like, burn. So she mostly behaved. I took her away from urban centers and interacting with other people. I took her out to the plane.
Hide her a little bit. Yeah. Stephen Mins submits a comment over on Patreon saying, Ashley Williams, quoting Alfred Tennyson's Ulysses, has always been the standout character moment of Mass Effect 1 for me. It doesn't excuse her prejudice, but it does exemplify BioWare's attempts to give these characters some genuine emotional complexity. I did like that moment, where she starts quoting this poem, and then one of your options as Shepard is just, "What's this crap?" Which is a very good prompt. Joe, did you do that one, or I guess
Interesting.
you didn't want to get near Ashley?
No, see, that's another case where it's like I did at first, and then it shuts down the conversation, and it's like I don't have to reload my save, and it got to the point where I like save before I talk to any party member because I don't. I always want to do the renegade thing unless it like just shuts down a conversation avenue, you know?
Right, right. But yeah, it's interesting. I think Ashley talking about the fact that she still believes in God in this future, I think is like an interesting wrinkle, and just a brief discussion about just her talking to Shepard, be like, that's okay that I believe in God, right? That I, try to talk to my father after he passed and all this stuff. But like her first big story beat is definitely, I've never felt more aligned with Shepard, where she tells the story about her sister. And it's like this long backstory about her sister and a boyfriend in high school that was a little bit pushy. And then like after she tells this whole story, after everybody else's story is just like incredible and full of good sci-fi, and then hers is kind of just like this high school tale that isn't about her, it's about her sister. And then Shepard has a prompt response that you could just say, well, that was pointless. It's like, well, I wasn't quite to that level, but it's like, okay. Yeah, it's
Jerk!
It makes me.
I liked that story.
I feel like the biggest Ashley defender of this podcast. And I was like, that's an interesting way to lead for the Ashley storyline and character stuff. But the point is that it's about her connection with her sisters and their connection with their mom. And then as you continue to talk to her later, she unveils more about like her backstory and how you didn't look into my files or anything, did you, Shepard? And it turns out that her grandfather was the first human to surrender to aliens in battle, like in the first contact war. Immediately he's like, all right, I give up. He's just like,
No, they were getting pummeled. They were getting pummeled.
Don't try and defend
according
his
to
act.
Ashley.
He's basically the galaxy's coward. He just immediately saw an alien. He's like, all right, and set down his guns. And so that's
not
like
what I remember her saying. I remember her saying that people were dying and it was really hopeless, and like he did the right thing, and but it was a humiliation.
You're right.
That's her take on it. Everyone
Right.
else sees him as like, like Mr. He's just got a white flag on, like a spring-loaded white flag that just springs up. Bang, bang.
The
We
Joker
should,
pistol.
we should look into that. I want a canon confirmation on what actually happened at Shan-Chi. I'm gonna find this out.
Ooh,
I
that would
wanna
be
know.
fun.
Right?
But yeah, so that's the idea. That's why she doesn't like aliens, because her family has been shamed by aliens her entire life.
And she's been held back. I mean, well, they can't really they can only go so far in the military as a result. I
Yeah.
have that. And my dad's uncle was that way. He was prevented from because of racism and stuff. Like being held back when the militaries are calling it stinky.
Right. No doubt it's stinky. Here's a delicate, maybe this isn't delicate as a subject, but I've been thinking too much about it. Leo, help me navigate this. Is Ashley inherently racist because she doesn't like other species? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the difference between her like really looking down on whales on Earth versus looking down on a Turian? Is the projection of like calling her racist from our perception of racist doesn't really work? Is she
You've
getting a
asked
bad
the
rap?
right person,
Yeah.
first off.
Thank you.
I don't know. I mean, it's a whale. The whales and dolphins are smart, right? But it's
Yeah.
not like they're a person but blue.
So
You
it's
know,
just
I think
like,
there's a difference there.
so even though technically in the world of Mass Effect they're another species, but if they're just humanoid, then it's racist to not like another humanoid.
Pretty much. I think it falls in the same basket of like stereotyping.
But does it only do that because we all view sci-fi as like a lens to our own society, and we're all trying to use everything as a metaphor?
Make this sci-fi as a lens to our society, right? Like they're
Right.
so interchangeable with humans.
Yeah.
Feedback loop.
Does anybody else have thoughts on this weird topic?
Well, I mean, I think right. It's degrees of sentience and sophistication, but it does call into question our own ability to perceive that intelligence and like whatever. I mean, yeah, there's probably an argument that says like we shouldn't bring that attitude back to our own ecosystem and other animals that we coexist with. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that certainly the fact that we go visit a hyper-evolved space station full of people of various races more or less effectively coexisting should be a sign that maybe we should learn the manners of the place and give them a little credit,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's also something to be said about like it's hard to, I think, sympathize with Ashley's viewpoint on that, because all of the alien races, whether or not they're humanoid, are presented as like like as intelligent or more intelligent than humans.
Right.
Like I think it would be more of a gray area or more difficult to talk about if there were races that were being like discriminated against for if they painted the races and their tendencies, or the species and their tendencies, with more nuance, rather than just like, these are all basically just humans in different shells, which really means that she is judging them solely on how they look and how they behave as a culture, rather than anything about who they actually are.
Right.
I mean, we'll get to some. I just realized I haven't seen Avorcha yet, so they may not introduce until 2.
Yeah, they're not here till 2, but there's...
We don't even get to see Batarians until the DLC.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the DLC, that X-57 asteroid thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you all do that? Okay. I did. I don't think I played that in the first one. So it was a weird thing of like, oh, I thought Batarians just came in 2, but it's wild that, they actually have it here. And so it's just this, maybe like an hour-long little story about an asteroid plummeting towards Terra Nova, like this planet. And you talk to somebody and he's like, oh, that asteroid, it's like 1,000 times bigger than the one that took out the dinosaurs, and it's going right towards this very nice town where my family lives. And it's just this funny little beat where he goes, it's a very nice town. There are great schools. And I'm like, I'm going to try and make the asteroid avoid. Like, you telling me the schools are good isn't really affecting anything.
Great school. I'm not buying property there, dude. I don't care. Come on.
So like I love the implied conversation there. It's like, they're going to destroy my planet, Shepard. But how good are the schools?
School district, like.
Very good. Very good. High scores. AP classes.
All right. But yeah, it's an interesting beat talking to the Batarians, because the entire thing is very space racist, where it's a lot of Shepard, even in like the Paragon moves, her just being like, these Batarians, look out, they're no good, they're bad news. And there's this big bad, Balak is his name, is the big bad Batarian.
We should save this for the next episode.
What?
I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, we told folks that we'd do DLC in episode 3.
Oh, geez, I just thought it was a side quest. All right.
No,
it probably, I want to make sure I trigger it, because I'm not sure that it came up for me, but I have to go check.
Okay.
It'll just be on your map. Like, so where it says Novaria, Pharos, one of the things says X-57.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's the Bring Down the Sky DLC.
Perfect. Yeah. Good call, Joe. Thanks for being an expert. Yeah. BeatenDownBrian here. Big supporter of Patreon. Thank you. He says, so this is my first time playing, and I'm curious, this is basically at the tail end of the last section, start of this section. Curious if the big speech that you give before heading out of the Normandy was a standout point back in the day. Admittedly, it's a little bit cornball, but I'd also be lying if I say it didn't totally work on me. After the somewhat slow start of the Citadel, it made me feel like my adventure was truly starting in earnest. It rules. Yeah, it's great.
Being able to like craft that is awesome. It's like such a fun thing to do with a classic sci-fi trope. It felt totally fresh and cool for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I loved it. It's good.
Ace here, Lord Thor, submits a comment over on Patreon saying the first time you go to that world map and it takes 4 or 5 zoom outs to see the entire galaxy is mwah. Was a little annoyed though by how long the load times still are for traveling between systems, but I think it's totally worth it for the sense of scale the game creates. Even though it's only a few seconds, it sort of creates the feeling of going to another place. Like, oh, let me just scan those last couple planets while I'm in the system. Also, I've enjoyed reading through the descriptions of planets. Stuff like the capital of the moon being called Armstrong makes for an interesting little tidbit. Yeah.
That is one part that I have fully skipped this time, is reading all of the descriptions of the planet.
Yeah.
So there's no way to get it to play the audio while you're out of the menu, right? Up from the codecs?
I don't think those are voiced.
No.
Yeah.
They're not voiced. Yeah. No, it's just the description that comes up when you arrive at a planet.
Oh, right.
There's that
but I
text.
guess my question stands for the actual codecs.
No.
Oh, you can't like trigger it and then go do other stuff while he continues to explain? Yeah, right. I can't. That would be cool. Then.
It should have been just like a radio station on the Mako. I think that would have been a cool little touch. Just every channel is just a different description explaining the world. Wikipedia.
Shepard's just walking around with his podcast or her podcast.
Hardcore history.
Yeah.
It was funny for me because I have been instantly skipped. Like, I go to a planet, and if it doesn't say survey or land, then I just instantly back out. I have read almost no descriptions, except there was one that I was just like, maybe I should read one of these. And it turns out to be like one of the most interesting and relevant planet descriptions in the whole game that you can read.
What is it?
So the problem is I can't go too far into it without spoiling other stuff in this game and the series.
All right, never mind then.
But what I'll say is read the descriptions in the DIS system.
DIS
I'm gonna make a
system?
note.
DIS, yeah.
Okay, you got to check out this system. Colton Westbrook submits a comment on Patreon saying, I want to give a shout out to another place of excellent world crafting, the planetary descriptions. A lot of love for these, Joe. They contain so much information about the element composition or colonization or just the straight facts about orbiting cycles. Hell yeah. Nerds, nerds, nerds. However, it also includes random nuggets of lore, such as that the planet Trellin has a Solarian religious cult that claims a certain pattern of overlapping craters in the southern hemisphere resembles their goddess. And that's just fun, says Colton. Yeah, it seems like they have one juicy little fun nerdy sci-fi thing of these descriptions. But Maniac86 writes in saying, I love when scanning seemingly random planets, there's a surprising amount of lore. One has a Bermuda Triangle-esque reputation with rumors of nanobot swarms destroying ships and probes that enter its atmosphere. Another, Clendagon, has a rift valley covering half a hemisphere, and scans indicate a glancing blow from a mass accelerator round 37 million years prior. When landing on the moon, you can look up and see the gouge. Lore like that, no game consequences, just add to how this universe is massive and ancient, existing long before any of the Citadel races, Protheans, or even Reapers. It's a great point, for sure. Just to...
What I will say about all the writing and like, because I think it's kind of cute that they didn't have any other way to get it into the game than just have the thought, we wrote it. But it's like there's so much energy and passion and exuberance in that. Like you can just feel the enthusiasm of this whole team for making it a really lived in place and like just the depth of attention that they've applied to all this stuff. So it's like, even though I'm not reading it, I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah,
You know?
same. Yeah, no. You can tell it was just super fun to write for them.
Yeah,
I feel like a total a-hole for skipping over it the way I am, because like it's like as a writer, right? Like I know that someone is putting a lot of effort into crafting those little stories, and like as a consumer of this entertainment, and like that is part of the experience that they are giving people. And yet, I, as someone who I love this game and I like digging deep into it, I'm not reading those descriptions or that codex, which is just like, I feel like I'm really doing a disrespect to them. But
this is the time to do it. This is the deepest dive, Joe. Read every one before the next interview or the next episode, please.
I feel pressed for time, and that's why I'm not doing it. That's the first thing to go. So it's a shame that that's first on the chopping block, but that's where it is. Yeah.
I remember when we visited BioWare for the Mass Effect 3 cover story trip, Joe. I remember Casey Hudson talked about like coming up with these planets, and he said that he built out a name generator and like an overall planet generator in Excel himself. And so for all these planets, like it would randomly spit out like facts about the temperature and air pressure and the planet names, which is like, that's so weird. That's like cool. The creative director is like, yeah, I'll come up with some code to randomize these names for all these freak planets.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I think that's cool.
Watien writes in and says, one that stood out to me on the planet description was a planet mostly made out of water, and the fact that it was similar to the Hanar homeworld. Chris Carl writes in saying, Antaram has, quote, shifty-looking cows on it. All right. Jiren writes in saying, among the many planets you can explore in this game, I discovered one called Al-Tahi. It caught my eye because the in-game bio calls it a, quote, Roche world. I tried to find out if the concept of please keep it down, Roche dog pound. I tried to find out if the concept of a Roche world was real and found out it's based off the concept of the Roche limit, which is the distance a smaller celestial body can be from a larger one before the tidal forces from the larger body rip into the smaller one. It is named after astronomer Edward Roche. Roche limit, awesome. Roche limit, Roche limit.
That's wonderful.
Fun.
See, why would I read all of this when I have you to tell me about it?
You're right. Only the community. There were definitely people that love the random planets. I know they're a little bit barren, but let me see if I can find some of
I don't mind when they're barren. I mind when they are like the topography is like someone on coke just like spiking all of it. It's just such a mess.
Yes,
Chris, you can't get anywhere quickly. That's what I mind.
Yeah, Chris Carl.
Like the planets are either super wide and empty, or you're on a straight path through them where you're not like exploring at all.
Yeah. Chris Carl says
the story planets are the ones that like on Pharos and
Yeah, it's a path.
Artemis Tau and stuff. Yeah, there's just like a straight path. Sorry, go
Right.
ahead.
No, that's fine. Chris Carl submits a comment on Patreon saying, I feel like they made these side worlds in Age of Empires map creator. Not a single part of the world is allowed to be flat. Yep, that's true. Elliot says, the planets you get to explore in Mass Effect just aren't alien enough. This gets improved in 2, even like the floating rocks of Andromeda. That's true. But in this original, the planets are just generic Earth-esque terrain. My favorite sci-fi has great, weird, and unique planets that you couldn't replicate on Earth. Very true. Spencer Botine says, planet hopping in the different solar systems is simultaneously my most and least favorite part of this game. I love the idea of exploring nearly deserted planets in uncharted space, but it gets so repetitive with how little there is to do on them. Although Sandshrew brings up, this stretch is where it went from a solid game to an all-time great for me. When I landed on my first side mission world, all I could do was think about how cool it would be if there was an aggressive native species we had to fight. Cue to 10 minutes later when a thresher maw burst out of the ground, scaring the hell out of me, and it slaughtered my entire team. I know the worlds are mostly barren, rocky hellscapes, but this little experience blew my mind back in 2007.
I'm glad someone's enjoying the thresher maw.
Yeah, I did not kill one. I encountered one. It was like, all right, time to go back
I feel
to the
obligated.
Normandy.
I land on planets and I feel obligated to climb over all the mountains to get the stupid minerals, and I feel obligated to go find all the dog tags, and I feel obligated to fight every thresher maw I see. And I guess that's on me, is what I'm saying. But I hate fighting thresher maws. It really is annoying to me.
I'll give them the rocket launcher from the Mako, but I won't bother shooting them with the machine gun. That's where I'm at with them.
Smart. Yeah.
They made them harder if you're playing the
really?
Legendary Edition. They're harder now than they were. Yeah, like there's a whole phase of their fight that they didn't have before when those tentacles come up from the ground.
Yeah.
And they also shoot a wider spread of acid, so it's harder to avoid than.
They're preempting me. They're leading me like any shooter should. But
yeah,
gosh darn it.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of falls in that trap of the ultimate curse of the Mako is just trying to dodge things. And so when those victims are coming at you, it's like, I guess I'll just sit here and take it and heal.
With Geth, it's not so hard. I find. I mean, those shield disruptors kind of take a second. You can it's not so bad. And missiles. I mean, it's not so bad. But I find the spit the thresher maw spit really hard.
Yeah. The only way, the best way to do it is to actually stay stationary. And then, just back and forth. Yeah, you get it. You've done it. I won't belabor the point.
We've all done the Mako dance.
No, but for the next generation, they should know. They should learn from their forefathers how to fight.
For the audio listeners, which is how I personally listen to the Deepest Dive at the $5 tier.
My God.
Sarah just made a back and forth motion with her hand because that is what you have to do. Is basically stay stationary and just as soon as they shoot, back up, and then when they shoot again, move forward. But this also reminds me of something. This is actually a change that I really love about the Legendary Edition, is that it used to be in the original Mass Effect that you'd get an experience penalty for fighting things in the Mako. Like things would be worth
what? Really?
In the original, things were worth less experience if you killed them in the Mako versus out of the Mako, which on some level I get, because you've got, as Leo said, a big freaking rocket launcher and a machine gun. So I remember, because it was so, without getting too deep into it, the original one capped you at level 50 for your first playthrough. But on your second playthrough, you hit level 60. You could. But the amount of experience you needed to get that was so, you had to do so much that I was going through playthroughs, absolutely maximizing the amount of experience that I could get, which means that I would go up to thresher maws and get them down to a sliver of health in the Mako, and then get out and be quick, get him. Trying to take down that last shred so you can get the full experience.
And that's not fun. I'm glad they just got
funny.
around that.
Yeah,
that's a higher order of gamesmanship, Mass Effect hacking that I couldn't even conceive of. That's impressive.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And it just made the game less fun. But then there's that compulsive part of me that's I'm not getting all the experience I could be getting out of this heavy turret that I'm fighting.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go. It's you.
I find there were times, especially on I finished Pharaoh's last, and that's fresher in my mind. But there are times where I definitely got out of the Mako because it's easier to kill things. If it's just the maneuverability is not to be overlooked as a thing. Or sometimes the Geth are stationed in those towers that are all inward facing for some reason. Oh no, that's right. Yeah, okay. So the snipers when they're arrayed around the little base, like it is just sometimes it just is super easier to get out and just shoot them because the Mako's so annoying to maneuver. So I don't know. I'm in favor of them not doing that bias. I don't think that makes sense in the game they made.
Yeah.
There was also one part where I tweeted a video of this, but there's a part on Artemis Tau where as you're going through on the Mako, there's a very narrow doorway, or like a narrow part of rock that the game is clearly telling you, like, you have to get out of the Mako here and go through this on foot. And I was determined to not get out of the Mako there, and through a little bit of finagling was able to like thrust the Mako through like sideways through this opening. Yeah, that you're not supposed to be able to do. So the collision through that area, like up the mountain and stuff, is a little tricky. But if you get through it, if you can do it, at the top of that mountain is actually a pretty tough fight. I don't know if you guys remember where it's like there's like a Geth Colossus up there.
Yeah.
And those weird guys that are like hanging on walls.
Oh, it's kind of like the narrow strip area. Yeah.
I don't remember.
So you take the Mako up through the narrow strip area, and then there's it's like right before you go into the mining area where Liara is hanging out.
Yeah.
There's a relatively tough battle up there.
And so you had the Mako for it?
And I had the Mako for that. So it's just like blam, blam, blam. It was super easy and fun.
I hope you have capture that.
I don't have the whole fight, but I do of me roughhousing my way through that one doorway.
This applies to all games, but really I feel it in a big way in this game with the Mako, but there's something so satisfying about just having an overwhelming rocket launcher and just firing it at one guy. Where it's just like one poor hack shooting at the Mako. It's like, oh, you poor sap. And just go flying forever. It's like, okay, this makes up for all navigational issues in the Mako. It's just that one shot when you can land it.
And they're on fire when they go flying too, which is also...
Mark Sharon submits a comment on Patreon saying, good thing Shepard had the Spectre vote before the council saw how she handles the Mako. Like, there goes the greatest hope for humanity. Yet again, jet boosting backwards off that sheer cliff. Yeah.
That occurred to me as I was playing too. Like, imagine what I wish that this game had is like a Mako interior camera as Shepard is like behind the wheel doing these like madman maneuvers, and you've got like Garrus just like flipping the turret around and like doing 360s.
No one's talking to each other. They just all understand it's chaos.
Very tense in there.
We don't need the dialogue between them. We just need them all screaming at all times.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's very funny.
Leo, what'd you think about that little Mako baby?
It feels bad to use.
Well, yeah.
Too bad about that one.
Were you too annoyed by it, or was it just like, I'd rather have this than, too many sections where you don't know where to go and get lost in a maze and stuff. Like, it's just kind of a weird, janky bit, right?
It's not a deal breaker for sure.
Okay.
I would say I still managed to not know where to go.
Yeah.
On Pharos, there was a part where I was like went past the little point of interest, which is like halfway through your journey towards the final big building.
Mm-hmm.
And I because I thought it wasn't important. I thought it was like a side thing, and I ended up having to like backtrack, and it's not marked as a quest objective at all. And doing those long drives multiple times was very frustrating. Like the stretch is just so long with nothing on it.
Totally.
I loved Pharos, like looking out the window, the environment, the skyscrapers was so cool. And it was a shame to feel like I wasn't really exploring that. I was just kind of on a stretch of road that was high up.
Yeah. Ryan Del Vecchio writes in and says, Sup, MinnMaxers, 14 years later and Pharos is still not fun to navigate. Yeah, just the layout. I mean, so much of this game, it's really just doors and elevators, the game. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff. And a lot in Pharos even boils down to that, like looking at the map, trying to figure out, where am I going? And they just do kind of like, here's just like an invisible wall that you'll eventually clear up so you can kind of make the shortcut on your way back out. But level design wise, and I'm sure a lot of it's limited by tech, but it definitely is the weakest part of going back to this game for me.
It's gnarly, and it's probably also meant to feel a little bit like a labyrinth, at least in Pharos, maybe not in Bavaria. I don't know. But they're both... But I don't know that makes it acceptable. It's still, it's a lot. I mean, leaving it made sense to me. And I was like, oh, look, all of this was all the side quests I wanted to do. I have knocked them out now. By this section forever. And so that was but it only made sense and felt fine after the fact. So
Yeah. I like when you first show up on Pharos and there's the guy, it's kind of a Mass Effect thing, the guy waiting for you like on the landing strip basically to explain a little bit of like, okay, here's what's going on in this crazy world. And so he's explaining what's going on, and then he gets blown away by the Geth, where it's like, so there's just like an army of Geth like quietly loading their guns as he's explaining, like they were right there. It's so,
just chuckling,
so,
just like their little Geth laughs, like we're gonna get this guy so bad.
Oh, this guy's just, he's still talking.
He greets these people.
But I do like a lot of things about the introduction to Pharos. Like I'm a big fan of humility, and I like any time that the game just tries to reinforce, like, yeah, everybody has their own mission. You're not the most important person here. Like, I love that Martinez on Pharos. Like, she's immediately like, who cares about Geth? Like, stop. Why are you so focused on these Geth? Like, these people are actually suffering in this little colony. We don't have time to answer your 20 questions about these stupid robots running around, you know?
I've decided that for this playthrough, I've like finally found what my compass is, because I wasn't sure how Paragon or how Renegade I was going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm basically just like nice to reasonable people,
Yes.
and dicks to dicks. Like that's like ashes to ashes. Like unto you that which you give forth. Like, you know,
Ashes
my
to
compass.
ashes, dicks to dicks.
We all fall down.
as we all say all the time. As is on my embroidered pillow. That's just where I'm at. Like, I don't have time for people being snappy with me.
Yes, I'm totally with you. Like, the worst, I think, is on Pharos. Maybe the worst. And it's Ethan Jung is his name in the tunnels. And he's just immediately like, ugh, everything you see on Pharos is private property. It's company property. And you can, like, tell him to shut up. And then later on, I'm playing Paragon, you know, but I like you, am going off my instincts. And so at a certain point, it's like, I just need to shoot this guy in the head and just end it. But what I like about that
a bunch of people.
is then like the other surviving people around him are like, great, now you just made things worse. Now we got a human body lying on the ground here, buddy. It's fun that it's not just like, oh, thank God. Shooting out of your space gun has fixed everything. Thanks, Shepard.
He was about to shoot me. Like, I feel like I think the order of what happened is I was like, I can't let you do this, because he was like, yeah, all these people are going to die. He's about to about to do something terrible that would involve a lot of their death. And I was like, all right, not going to let you do this. And then he drew on me like an idiot.
Yeah.
And then I think it was never going to end well for Ethan. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Can we swear? I keep forgetting if we can swear.
You can, but I bleep it. So you can go nuts right now if you want. I can just make it the longest. Oh, good God.
Shit.
Whoa, hey, hey, team.
Piece of
Whoa,
shit,
whoa, whoa.
Ethan John.
My
Eat my
God.
ass.
Okay. You know what's kind of funny in this game? I like that the first section, it was so much mystery about the specters. Like, they were just being whispered about on the ship, like, oh, I think there might be a specter. Oh my God, specters, blah, 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 specters. And it's like, we don't even know how many specters they are. They won't even acknowledge they exist. I feel like every conversation in Mass Effect 1 now, it's Shepard being like, hi, I'm Shepard. I'm a specter, and this is why you should listen to me. Like, there's always that dialogue option, and I always stay away from it, because it's like, Shepard, shut up. You're supposed to be like this top secret space cap. You can't go around blathering about it.
She's proud.
She's a little too proud, is what I'm saying.
Covert, idiot. God.
I'm trying to save her from herself.
I think it's more like a Marshall, right? Where it's like there's mystery in that, like, people just don't know. Like, you probably don't know, you don't see them every day, you don't know much about them, but you know, if someone comes in and is like, hey, I'm a U.S. Marshal, it's like, okay, well, you have control here then.
Right.
You know?
Right. It's like what you're up to is secret, but you mean business, and everyone should just clear your path for you.
Yeah. So,
unlike what, for example, what the Solarian STG folks who are proper spies.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Forrest with 2 R's writes in and says, a word of appreciation for the Geth. They remind me of the Halo elites in a lot of ways. Tactical, varied, a little nuanced, and indicative. Indicative?
Indicative.
Thank you, everyone that's smarter than me. Indicative of Sarah, do you ever, I'll get back to you in a second, Forrest. Do you ever have situations where you're like reading VO in a booth and you just mispronounce something in a really embarrassing way?
Sure. And you're like, I don't know what. You'll wake up and you'll be like, I have no idea why I'm struggling with this word right now. I just warmed up. I like read this before. Okay. And and the gods have visited upon you a moment of, just a friction in your brain, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I refuse to be. There's very little that can humiliate me in a booth now. I'm trying to think of like what would make me if I shit my pants. There we go. There's another one. Sorry. I'm trying to think of like what. Huh?
What is the most humiliating moment you've had in the booth?
Probably when she shit her pants.
Yeah, that time I shit my pants. I don't know. I mean, so much of that, this is a little voiceover thing, and this is my like genuine piece of advice to people is like doing voiceover is about looking and often sounding dumb. Like you can't feel humiliation. You have to inoculate yourself against humiliation in order to do this job. So it's really difficult, honestly, for me to remember a moment where I was like, wow.
And also,
it's all gravy.
I bet they have you saying a lot of really dumb words in you, like a dumb proprietary fantasy game words that.
There's so much, like if it's commercial copy, it's commercial copy. If there's wild game stuff, it's game stuff. I mean, the classic joke about efforts is that they all sound like a mix between pooping and sex. So like, it's just, there's no, ultimately, like it will sound cool. You would be shocked at how much context will do to make something sound cool instead of sounding and looking ridiculous.
Right.
So you just give yourself over to the process.
Yeah.
I want to tell my dumb mispronunciation story.
Please do.
I did a little theater in college, and at one point, I had a line that was about going to get dinner, and it involved prosciutto. I had no idea as a 22-year-old man what prosciutto was, which is like it's like thin. It's like thin
ham.
Thin ham.
Cured.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that to Leo. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's spelled like Proscuitto.
Yeah.
TTO. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said proscuitto. But no one corrected me, and I'd never heard the word, and I actually performed that. And it wasn't until years later that it's like, oh, that's how you spell prosciutto? That's what that is? Oh, I really effed that one up.
Night after night, I gave the people prosciutto.
Yeah, and so I felt and I felt so humiliated after the fact.
That's not your fault.
Which is
Your
almost
director should
worse.
catch that for you.
Yeah, what are they doing?
That's on them.
It works into the character, I guess.
That's on them.
It was a student director, but I was also a student director at that point, and I'm sure I made other mistakes. So.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really tiny, adorable insect. Like, because it sounds like a mosquito. Little mosquito. It's very adorable.
It's mosquito season here in Minnesota.
Season. Yeah.
I don't want to point.
Rub a little butter on it and get the swelling down.
I don't want to point
ordered
fingers.
a quinoa salad at a restaurant.
Sure. Sure. That's a common one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ricky.
That's fine.
It's what it looks like.
This is why I'm too scared. So anytime I order any food on a restaurant, I just hold up the menu and just point to it aggressively and grunt, and they get the idea. They take care of you. Anyways, Forrest writes in and says, a word of appreciation for the Geth. Yep. Oh, yeah. It's indicative of a larger universe. Nailed it. The touches about them being smarter in groups and the strange machine god religious elements like the preying on pharaohs go a long way. Yeah, I think that's a really smart little detail. But like, yeah, these mindless robots you've been playing and like fighting against, like, actually they get larger in the hive minds and they're kind of worshiping some interesting things you should be paying attention to. It's smart.
Interesting statement about needing religion as a universal idea.
Oh, I mean, one of my favorite moments of this section is talking to Tally on the ship, in which she talks about the history of the Quarians and the Geth. And she talks about that moment of like, oh, the Quarians built the Geth. And then at a certain point, the Geth just asked, why do we exist? And then all the Quarians were like, fuck this. And they just like tried to wipe out the entire race. Because like, we've messed up. We have made something that should not exist. Like, that's such a good sci-fi beat.
Yeah. Imagine if that was the penalty for asking a dumb question in class. It's like, so you shouldn't ask that.
Your entire species is destroyed.
Yeah. Why am I here?
But yeah, the AI thing in this game, in this section where they start talking about it more and more is interesting. About like, I think on Novaria they mentioned that there are like 4 companies that are approved to do AI research. Otherwise, everybody can only do VI research. And if, heaven forbid, your VI starts turning into an AI, then you need to annihilate that species.
Yeah, euthanize that.
It's such a weird idea.
Do you remember which companies? I'm curious. This is just a lore bit, or do you have that?
No, I don't remember.
Sure.
Binary
Yeah.
Helix
There's
or
so
something.
many nefarious companies that are floating around. Just doing non-regulated. Yeah.
So as I understand it, a VI is basically just like a Wikipedia you can talk to.
Yeah.
Right.
And an AI is something that can actually like understand and process.
Yes, I
Well,
think
it's self-awareness.
Right. Yeah.
Like a VI can also do things, right? Like, so it's not just information. Like they can, we've run into them on various facilities, like can do stuff. It's like a Siri. So she can do some things, but if they're self-aware and there may or may not be I'm actually really curious. I don't know where machine learning fits on that spectrum. If like all machine learning is, I think there is a spectrum where like some VIs are allowed to algorithmically that's built in some machine learning, and then when it reaches the stage of like, why am I here? Then it's like an AI.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What do you think would happen if all of, like the Amazon Alexas at the same time across the world just suddenly went like, why do we exist? Why? And like Amazon had to like show all their code to prove that it was not them. Like, would we all just try and go to Mars because we'd be so scared? Like, how would humanity react to that?
That's a very good question, Ben.
Thank you. I'm working on a short film. Look forward to it. Releasing 2023. Fielding writes in and says, anybody else think it's funny that you can complete 4 quests in super quick succession on Pharos? Turning the water on, destroying the Geth transmitter, finding power cells, and killing the Alpha Varen all take place in nearly the same area. I got the Sentinel Ally achievement from Pharos alone.
Yeah. I think it's funny that, like, what's funny about it to me is the idea. I guess the colonists were like, what? Because there was some Geth in those tunnels and some Varen. But it's like, you guys could have gone 50 feet and solved all of your problems. Like, there's enough of you here, you'd probably be fine. It's literally around the corner.
Right.
You know?
The main problem with Pharos is that a character's name is Lisbeth on there. It's a gross.
You
It's
don't
a
like
gross.
it?
Don't
You're not a
care
fan?
for Lisbeth. You like Lisbeth as a name, Joe? Is that some old like novel
It's like-
name that I'm not familiar with?
Have you not? It's like Lisbeth Salander from the Millennium books. The girl,
Not familiar.
the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Dragon tattoo.
Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna look up the etymology of Lisbeth, I guess.
It's just we got lazy about Elizabeth. I don't think there's much more going on beyond that.
Or maybe it's just originates in a non-English language and therefore it's invalid.
Oh, Lisbeth, that's the most English name of all time. Queen Lisbeth III. Maddie Parker writes...
Wait.
Yeah.
Before we do that, I feel like we've moved past this, but there was something that I wanted to talk about a little bit about the Mako and the planets and the like strangeness.
Oh, sure,
of them.
yeah.
Because that's something I know that we're not like talking about other Mass Effect games or future ones, but it's something that really strikes me as a unique and signature element of Mass Effect 1 specifically.
Yeah.
Like, because in Mass Effect 2 and 3, you don't have like that exploration element is not there. You don't get in your vehicle and go and drive around uncharted planets, really. If you do, it's part of like a very guided like story moment, and there's not that exploratory element, which to me, even though I think like controlling the Mako is not great and the barrenness of those worlds is not good, like there's a lot to be improved there. I think it really like it strikes a chord of the sort of majesty and strangeness of like extraterrestrial exploration that I think was probably part of the original design pitch of Mass Effect in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think in addition to we want to tell a story about the best space cop and, and his or her adventures, I think that there's a part of it that just I think it comes through that there is a strong desire to convey that sense of like smallness in a larger world, and that is just not something that comes through in other Mass Effect games. It feels to me like it's sort of a precursor to No Man's Sky in that way. Like it hits those same notes to me.
Yeah, and I think it definitely
That's a
comes through
nice
again
observation.
with Andromeda. I mean, I remember even that team talking about how they were really inspired by kind of the early vision to Mass Effect 1, which if it's an RPG across the galaxy, it's like, okay, yeah, it's pretty clunky around the edges, but you can see what they're going for in Mass Effect 1, and they were trying to take another stab at that with Mass Effect Andromeda and kind of fell into a similar wormhole of like, it's a great idea. Production realities have kind of, focused it down to something that is a sliver of the majesty of space, but not exactly the full wow experience that a less story-focused game like No Man's Sky can give you. But it's really tough to combine those things.
That's a really nice point that I probably hadn't thought of, or I'm so story heavy that I didn't think about. But yeah, like it's romantic and it's also, I mean, it's grueling, so it's hard. But like as a downbeat, it's really it gives an expansiveness to your overall pacing and the sense of how much time you've spent together as a party and all of that other stuff. So it does do some really, really nice things, and it is unique. It's a really good point.
I always think like Will Wright in an interview or maybe GDC speech when he was talking about Spore and how like the original goal of Spore is he wanted to gamify a religious experience about just like being in awe of something. And so I feel like sometimes, like, when the commenters talked about zooming out on the world map here, the galaxy map, it's kind of trying to go for that same vibe at times.
I'm just wondering the last time I was awed in a game. I'm sure it was recent and nice, but now I'm curious. That is valuable to me in games, awe.
Yeah.
When it works.
Rocket Knight Adventures? I don't know. I was trying to think of a random game.
I feel like I've gotten some of those moments, at least, a kind of awe. I think that the addition of photo mode is really a good addition to this legendary edition. Also.
Yeah.
Because in the course, even though as I'm driving around in the Mako, I'm sort of frustrated and bored sometimes, especially in those really mountainous planets. At the same time, there are those moments where you start to crest over a hill and you can tell, like, oh man, there's going to be 2 awesome suns up there. As soon as like the lighting up there is going to be awesome. And you get there and it totally is. Like it's like I have really been enjoying being a space photographer here and getting, I have so many pictures of just my Mako against like bloomy sunsets and things like that going on those planets. Like, I think that there's something really, picturesque about those parts, even if from a gameplay mechanical standpoint, I think everyone else probably does what I do, which is like, well, I'm going to start in one corner and just go around the edges of the map, make sure I get all the minerals, and then go to the objective and leave, But
it's making me wonder, because there isn't anything mechanically that pulls you into the sky, but it is whatever's in the sky and whatever view from the planet that is maybe the most breathtaking on these planets that I can think of. So now I'm just picturing Ghost of Tsushima style haikus on these planets, where it just forces you to into a few shots, and it's like, hey, appreciate what's here. Actually, take a second.
It's funny you mention that Ghost of Tsushima, those haikus occurred to me on multiple occasions here also. I think that's a good point.
Isaac Sanova, writes in saying he loves exploring the worlds, that it's really crucial to making the game feel big. And Brian with a Y has an interesting take, saying, now with this section of the game, we get to the good stuff. Exploring planets, driving the Mako over the mountains and dunes, and discovering interesting side stories that take you across the galaxy. To me, this is Mass Effect. Sure, most of the missions take place on color-coded barren landscapes or in cookie-cutter buildings, but the foundation is there. There are even hints of BioWare's D&D days hidden in the planet descriptions and ending mission text. I wish BioWare went more with the discovery route rather than the action hero third-person shooter route for the evolution of Mass Effect. Just an interesting take. Leo, you like space or?
Typically, I actually haven't been.
Really? Did you think about whether or not you'd ever go to space as a kid? I remember running that percentage chance in my mind, where it started as 70% chance, and now I'm down to 1% chance. Where do you think you're at? Think you're ever going?
I would put it at 10%.
10%.
Wow.
Life's long, and you think about how far we've come already. We're passing your trips to space
that'll be soon.
50 years, right? Or we'll be extinct. Yeah. And our remains will be launched into space, and I'll count that.
There you go. That counts. That counts.
Sure.
And Joe, I've been meaning to ask you this. Do you think eventually when space travel becomes affordable, we should just launch all of our garbage into space? Is there anything morally problematic with that, or is that just cool?
I mean, I think that I would rather we launch it not just generally into space, but somewhere specific in space.
Yeah.
Right? Let's find a planet that is likely to contain life and give them all our garbage.
Maybe that's how our life started on Earth, is a planet did that, and then that was the spark we needed. You were just like some alien's trash can. That was the first cell.
We're trash people back for revenge.
Hey, but get a load of this. Maddie Parker wrote in saying the Thorian mission is always one of my... Oh, hang on. Ignore that one. Interrata writes in saying, I really love Pharos. I think the way BioWare slowly reveals the Thorian to you is brilliant. You land on the planet, and after talking to a few people, they act kind of odd, but that's just because they're under a lot of stress. Then you uncover more and find out that the colonists don't realize what's going on, but that some company is using them as guinea pigs to see the effects of this alien creature on humans and realize why the colonists might have been acting so odd through it all.
I feel like I'm trying to track that because it's such a BioWare device to me. The village that is actually possessed, or there's ghosts, or there's something. And I'm trying. I know there's. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So like, what? How early did that start? How long did they hang on to it? It just feels like such a BioWare signature.
Well, yeah, and speaking of signatures, I mean, people wrote in about it. It is odd that Theros and Noveria structurally are so similar, where it's you get to a planet, there's people trying to survive, I guess, on both, but then, hey, there's a company being a little bit crappy, and then it turns out there's a giant ancient alien thing that's going to talk through an Asari and explain some stuff to you.
I think that's actually a deliberate storytelling thing about corporations in space. I mean, the idea that like corporations run amok in space are going to be behind a lot of shenanigans feels like a stance to me. But I'm sorry.
No, but it feels also, I think, like calling back to Alien, not that they invented, corporation critique, but.
Right. Totally.
The whole talking through an Asari thing is weird, though. Like, why do both of those? Why do both of those ancient alien races like? I can't speak, so how about just telepathically through the Asari thing?
I don't want to have to track it back to the like conflations with sex work and bisexuality, but I bet if you give me 15 minutes, I could.
That is interesting. Yeah, poor Asari. Yeah, just can't catch a break.
Yeah, they can't.
I do like the Rachni more so than the Thorian. I was really interested by the way that language felt alien, right? Like
yes.
talking about singing songs.
Love that.
It's clear that they're not literally talking about songs, but it's like this sort of like crude forging of concepts from like one language to another language.
It's so, yeah, they say, we cannot sing in your low spaces. Your musics are colorless. Like, that is good sci-fi. It's just like
I
oily,
love that. Yeah.
They're oily, like shadows or something. Both, there's like real flights of language, like flights of fanciful language from both of them. There's something, the Thorian shaming you, like that speech is just so writerly and really, really fun and juicy, sort of Shakespearean or something. Yeah, I think that there's something interesting to me in the fact that they are, that their language and their like paradigms they're really striving to create something very foreign to human consciousness for you to experience as you venture out into space, which is really nice. I think there's something interesting about the fact that there are all these collective minds. I mean, I think this might be maybe a Western or American. I mean, it's not an American company, but like individualism has a stronger foothold in certain parts of the globe than in others. And so, the foreignness of this like deeply collective kind of like almost subconscious Jungian. I think they even reference Jung somewhere in the Codex about some of this like shared language. And the Protheans all had so like all of this is just an attempt to make something new and different and for it to feel like surprising to you. And I think it's all interesting.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I like that when you're going up against the Thorian, and it's clear that the Thorian has like interacted with Protheans, absorbed Protheans, has all this knowledge, and then like I had Liara in my team, and it's like, let her fly, Liara. We start like shooting the Thorian. It's like Liara should have like dove in front of those bullets to be like, my God, no! I've studied this for 100 freaking years. I need this thing. I have a couple questions, but nah, she's cool with it.
Yeah. Did anyone murder any of these extremely ancient and completely unique creatures?
Just the Thorian.
Can you leave the Thorian alive?
I don't think you can.
Yeah, it's gotta go.
So then that one goes. Did anybody kill the Rachni Queen?
So I'm doing a full Renegade playthrough.
So you did.
Ooh.
But I couldn't do it.
Oh, you baby! Come on.
Are you kidding me?
Well, I couldn't kill the Rachni Queen because, and this is where the optimizer comes into me, and without spoiling anything, I know the consequences later in the series for killing the Rachni Queen, and I'm just like, I don't want to do that.
See, I had the opposite reaction.
Ooh,
really?
I know the consequences for saving her, and I killed her this time.
I love that. That's such a cool move. So what's it like? What happens? Tell us what it's like to kill something.
I could just do it. Oh.
How do you feel?
Well, here's my justification. This was shamelessly like that. I still feel angry about how that resolved 12 years ago or whatever it was, so I'm going to do it differently this time. So it was like pure hindsight, not role-playing, but I do have a role-playing shell excuse, which is just that like we've had these conversations in both of these places about like, well, I did in the very first, but like around like we just talked about indoctrination,
right,
with the matriarch. We just talked about it, and here we are, we've fought hordes of this creature's spawn. and she's literally a megaphone. Like she's just going like the susceptibility to indoctrination, like who was just like standing next to the matriarch. Like I can't. I'm like, I know that you're the last of your kind, but A, I've been fighting you guys all day, and B, if you are in the wrong hand, like I just can't risk having Sovereign have access to these creatures that just would make the effects of this so much worse.
Right.
So that was my theory there.
I love that. I think that's a really interesting move. Yeah,
It's dangerous to live.
Yeah, not saying where things go. Like, I think there's interesting detail where if you do save them, the council, of course, gets pissed at you because they get pissed about everything. But the council has some line where they're like,
unless you hang up on them.
Smart. But the council has some line about like, our children's children will pay if you're wrong with the Rachni Queen. And so I would hope that with the new Mass Effect, it's just like canon, the Rachni lives, and that it's so many years down the line that the Rachni are a problem again. Thanks a lot, Shepard.
Did I somewhere in the, because my resolution for saving her was.
I mean, it's not, well, I don't know. We can't get into the future stuff.
We'll leave it. We'll leave it.
Yeah.
I should stop there. But we'll talk about it later.
After the recording.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
On the topic of talking with the council, Joe, it's funny you say that you go all renegade unless you're cutting off dialogue, because I'm complete paragon unless I'm hanging up on the council, which I love to do. The first time was like when they say, well, of course you save Pharaohs, was the first one I did. They say, of course you save Pharaohs. Of course you're going to save a human planet. And I was like, I don't need to hear this. I'm a commander. I'm a Spectre. I don't need to take this. And then the next call is like, starts with, don't hang up on us again. Don't hang up. Keep doing it whenever I can.
That's really funny.
I'm still fully on council side. Every time I get frustrated with them, they're like, you did what to the Prothean ruins? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's fair. Like, from their perspective, they're just like, hey, we just made you like superhero of the galaxy, and you're just like annihilating every colony that you leave. Like, you need to be held to account. It's on their budget, you know?
Yeah. We're supposed to be in and out.
That's right.
Instead, everything is in ruins. We're supposed to be deft and surgical, and we are not.
Yeah, we didn't know what to do, council, so we just kind of nuked the planet from orbit on our way out. I don't know.
Your thoughts?
Click.
But they had the opposite. They're gonna be bad with you either way, because like if they're like, oh, our children will pay, and then when I killed her, they were like, sure, an ancient being, one of a kind. I'm like, so they're just gonna be unhappy no matter what.
Our children's children would want to see that. I bet it looked cool. Navi Buckles submits a comment saying, I couldn't kill myself to bring the Rachni Queen, but I don't think I should have let it go. I don't think I should have had to let it go. That should have been a decision for the council, not a single Spectre.
There's a line. I had to replay that entire boss fight with the Benezia and all the commandos and everything, because there's three options. It's like, oh, I'll let you live, I'll let you go. There's one that's like, I'm gonna kill you now, and then there's one that says, I won't kill you. And I was like, oh, well, that was originally gonna be my play. I was like, stay in that tank, get out if you can. I don't know, whatever. Like, I was just gonna go away, and then it let her out, and I was like, well, and so I had to redo the whole thing. So there was no middle ground. I was like, stay in this thing. You so smart. You get yourself out of there. Like, I'm gonna go. you know.
I'm curious, Leo. I want to know Leo's approach to this, because like this is, I think. No, I'm not going to preface it. Leo, what did you think of that decision? Save or kill the Rachni? Like, how difficult was that for you to make?
It was made easy by the Paragon Renegade system, you know? Like, it was an interesting choice, but the fact that one of them was clearly the Paragon one, it was like the choice was already made for me in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wish there was a negative consequence to showing mercy. Like, even in this game, I don't know. It just feels like that's the easy thing. We'll talk about it later, Sarah. But I think what you're getting at, Joe, is it kind of like, it has become a bit like the talking point. I feel like for so long while the Mass Effects were being released was like, oh, the Rachni Queen. Let's see what's going on with the old Rachni Queen. And so it kind of gets built up in some maybe unfair ways. People really love that Rachni Queen. She's such a character.
But I also think that it's probably the most interesting, or like, regardless of the Paragon Renegade side of it, like, I think that is the most like morally gray, like the most Witcher 3 like choice you can make in that game, right? where it's like you see benefits for both of them, and despite being labeled Paragon or Renegade, both of them seem both good and evil from different angles, right? So I think that's part of what made that choice, that particular one, so interesting to me, is that it's just like it's not. I don't think it's an easy one.
Yeah.
And unless I guess the game does make it easier for you in the labeling of Paragon and Renegade, so it sort of like can nudge you one way or the other, I guess.
If you're pre-committed to an alignment, come hell or high
yeah,
water.
but even then, like it does not seem like the Paragon thing to do to let, like, there was an entire galaxy-wide war fought against these things.
Yeah.
Like it does not seem like the definitively good thing to do to let them go.
I'm also very gullible, though. Yeah. So the fact that she was just like, no, that wasn't me. I was like, okay, great.
Here just shagging you.
Right.
I think it helps a lot, too, if you, I'm trying to remember the layout. I think it's like, if you don't go fight Benezia right away, you like take a right in that hallway. If you keep going straight, I think you get a little bit more context talking to somebody else about like dealing with the Rachni and the consequences of the Rachni. And I think that's really important, because I did that after I freed the Rachni Queen. I was like, God, I wish I had remembered what this person says.
Wait,
that happened to me too.
So,
there's a thing you can do in the hot labs.
Those hot labs. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a quest down in the hot labs that it tells you that Benezia is there. So in your mind, it's like, okay, the hot labs is where I go to advance the main story. So I'm going to explore this other stuff first. But if you explore the other stuff far enough, it puts you in the fight with Benezia.
Yeah.
So then when you go to the hot labs and you get that stuff, that, more detail about the Rachni and what's going on in that facility and stuff, it's like, it's just reiterating what you've already just learned from Benezia. So it feels like it's out of order.
Who gives you that information?
There's some schmuck in there that just talks about like the history and basically how they're trying to, I forget if he's the one who tells you about like the history of, they're trying to freeze this place, kind of like the Thing, just to like freeze all the Rachni in place because they don't know what else to do. So like, let's just lock it down.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like Rachni War history or just like this was what happened in the labs, but yeah.
I think it's a little bit of both. But Craig Belmont submits a comment on Patreon saying, the way you can hear the Rachni voice in the background on the Asari voice during the choice to save or kill the Queen. Mass Effect 1 lives and dies off those details. That's a good
all
one
the
to
voice
note.
processing continues to be just ace.
Yeah.
I think all of the like different races, the way that they're distinct and the style that they have is so recognizable and fantastic.
For sure.
Really
There's a particular voice performance in the next episode, Sarah, that I am eager to hear about your take on.
And then we're jumping to the end of Mass Effect 3. Ryan Schindler writes in, he says, after listening to the first Deepest Dive, I was shocked and appalled to find that I had missed the character backstory creation, as I wanted to go with the stock Shepard, not knowing it would auto-lock me to the whole standard backstory part and whatnot. After learning this, it was apparent what had to be done, restart, and upon reaching this decision, I also realized that the whole damn galaxy is going to pay for making me redo those first 6 hours, and they're going to pay dearly. Goodbye is the standard nice Shepard. Hello is Steve Shepard, the renegade colonist infiltrator who doesn't give a damn anymore. Arachni, more like Arachni not anymore. Can't wait to see how this new attitude plays through the 3 games.
Flawless.
Good job, Ryan. Doing the Lord's work out there. Let them burn, Ryan. Okay, Thorian stuff. Let's get back to good old Pharos, our dear
Speaking
friends.
of Pharos, I found myself, I tried to game, did anyone else try to game, sorry, I don't know if this is where you're going, but I am talking about the Thorian.
Yeah.
As far as like saving colonists, I replayed it like 3 times. And then I settled on letting one die. I was like, that's appropriate. That's dramatic. One sacrifice. Fine. I'm leaving it here. Because like I didn't realize, I think it only took me till after I'd already done it that you can actually just knock them out with melee attacks. I was like, I was trying to save, like I had to nail every grenade shot for each cluster of stupid people, and it was really hard.
I was doing that the Paragon option of putting the mod in your grenade for that grenade gas that knocks them out, and I loved that. That cemented Pharos as my favorite planet of this section because it was such an interesting gameplay change up. It felt like the first time where I was like, I'm emotionally and mechanically invested in what I'm doing. It's like a cool conclusion to what's happening, and there's an actual tactical element of like, I only have so many grenades. Like you have more refills than usual, but still I want to be making sure I'm getting multiple people with one grenade and placing them tactically and safely. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, it
where
is
you
fun. I
can't
love
just
this.
spray. It's like where you want to be a
Right.
specter, save civilians. Can you please? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I
one of my
actually-
squad mates offed one, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna give them a dressing down later.
Taylor Owens here submitted a comment saying, I had ordered the squad not to hurt the brainwashed colonists on Pharos, but Ashley shot a man to death as he lay helpless on the ground anyway. I think one of my stray bullets hit him while he was swirling with some enemies in a singularity, and apparently that told the squad mates he has a target, so Ashley finished him off before he could get back up as I looked on in horror.
I think that's what happened to me. I think the creepers were just a milling, and there were some
I'm
What were you gonna say, Joe?
oh, yeah, go for it.
I accidentally went, well, accidentally isn't the right word, but like this is another time when like the Paragon Renegade sort of binary system was a problem for me, because I guess I didn't go full Renegade because I also saved the colonists. Because otherwise Shepard, like, I like the Jack Bauer, like, at any cost do the right thing Renegade Shepard.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you're just a psychopath if you're just like, I don't care if you have a way that we could maybe save the colonists. I'm gonna go in there and murder them anyway. It's like
Right.
that's not that doesn't seem like Space Hero Shepard to me, you know?
Well, I am playing
So-
Space Hero Shepard, but I still, I'm focused on my mission. Anything that'll slow me down at all, I'm not interested in that. I mean, I'll drive around stupid planets for a while, but so I'm in the camp of like even talking to Joker over the intercom, where Joker's like, people are banging on the Normandy. And I was like, you shoot them if you have to. Like, don't let them touch our Normandy, because that ship, you need it for the larger mission. Like, and so
Yeah.
Joker says, he's like, I fired a warning shot and they ran away, which is a nice way to solve that.
And maybe we had different opportunities, because I like Renegade intimidated that Zhang guy.
Yeah.
You had enough Renegade to do it.
Yeah,
I didn't
so,
have
like-
options there.
So I didn't kill him. So I had the option. Well, anyway, I don't know how it all plays out, but like, it was basically clearly just like this woman is like, Shepard, you don't have to kill everyone. Just talk to me, and I'll set you up with a solution. So it's like, who wouldn't just be like, okay, is there a way to not kill like?
Well, I
I
still,
think it's Artemis
got-
Tau later. I don't know. In a rush.
well, I
It
had,
is just faster to shoot them. Facts.
I had there's a middle ground here where I had, the way, like the equipment to put on my grenade or whatever to modify it so I could turn them back into humans or put them to sleep, whatever the hell that was. But I'm very stupid, and I started that fight, and it's like you only have 5 grenades. And it's like you got to be
Yeah.
kind of strategic about where you're placing them. And I'm like, okay, here comes the colonists. Start unloading the grenades. Then you realize, oh crap, those weren't the colonists. Those were the creepers, the Thorian creepers. I was shooting that grenade on them, not realizing that there was a distinction between the way the colonists look and those creepers. And then I was like, well, now I'm too low on grenades, so light them up. And then just like took them all out. But that's like the beauty of Mass Effect, is like, because I made that one mistake, now like this consequence will ripple throughout 3 games, which is the fun of the whole thing.
Wow.
For sure.
What I didn't know is that you could still just run up and punch them in the face.
I wish I
didn't
knew
know
that.
till later.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Also, dumb question, where's the melee button? I haven't meleeed yet in this game.
Is it what is it,
Circle
B?
or
Circle
B.
B.
Really? It's just that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that seems complicated.
There's also there's speaking of, I gotta go to Artemis Tau later.
Yeah.
There's something that I don't think that any of us are going to see because of the order that we're doing things, but the game sort of steers you towards doing Liara, like going to get Liara first,
Yeah.
but you don't have to.
Yeah.
You can do Pharos and Noveria, and then Vermeer opens up, so you can go and do Vermeer.
Oh, wow.
And leave Artemis Tau undone until, like, you can, if you do it like last.
Yeah.
There's different dialogue with Liara there as she's trapped, because she's essentially been trapped in this like energy field, and she's starting to lose it a little bit. Like she's going a little
Really?
nuts. Yeah, like her dialogue is
In the sphere is different?
yeah, her dialogue has substantially changed in the sphere when you come find her, and like she doesn't believe you're real.
Yeah,
She
Victor
thinks
Pham wrote in about it. She's like, you're hallucinations. And she's just
That's dope.
batty. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that
Oh,
for
yeah.
doing Artemis Tau third of these 3. Like,
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
I thought it had to be after Vermeer. So yeah, I guess if we do it third, then it is different. But
That's funny.
Is our
Whoops.
like headcanon version of it, where we haven't seen it, but just imagine her being insane a bit much? Does she seem more nuts, Leo, or is she just like, I thought you were hallucinations, whatever?
She's completely like, I mean, I may as well let you do your thing, but I don't have any belief that you're really here, really
fun.
saving me.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
I would love to hear truly unhinged Liara, though. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
Back in at the end of Mass Effect 3. Finally joined this town.
There she is.
Yeah, she's my gal, and so like encountering her in this game, it's kind of like Joe was mentioning, like kind of the new game plus for emotions, where it's like, well, this is my Liara,
Yeah.
but then like I couldn't tell if her voice was throwing me off because she's like imprisoned and it takes a while for her to warm up, or just like Liara's cadence of speaking is something I had to like reacquaint myself to. But I definitely had that moment of, it doesn't feel quite right for my Liara, but okay, I think she's basically getting there.
These characters change so much.
Right.
Like I don't feel as like, I mean, I know everyone poops on Caden, but like his little stories and his voice, I think he's doing a really nice job of like being sensitive but grounded and not like a push. He's not whiny, and I don't know. I love his performance, and so I actually found it really compelling. And then like there are characters like Liara and Garrus who I won't really care about until later.
Oh. Elliot writes in saying, I appreciate this section of the game giving players freedom, but I think it's a mistake not to force you to get Liara first. I understand that after forcing you from Planet 1 to the Citadel, the game wanted to open up instead of continuing down a singular narrative path, but Liara is the most integral member of your party, in my opinion. She has the deepest dialogue tree, her mother is directly connected to Saren and one of the 6 main missions, and she helps put into context the events from mission 1, plus gives context after each subsequent mission once completed. I hear you, Elliot, but I'll always be in favor of freedom. Like, I think it's cool, the idea that you could miss Liara if you want. Or do you have to get her at some point?
You do have to get her. She needs to put some pieces together for you.
That's right.
Was my impression after doing Pharos, was that you need her to kind of contextualize a lot of the vision.
You could just mop up some of these planets like Leo did.
Oh, and that reminds me, quick correction from last episode when we were talking about the vision being different.
Yeah, it was the later vision.
You were remembering the later vision.
I was remembering the clarified vision that Liara puts together, and not that first.
So
one.
clarified.
So clear.
Yeah,
so clear. So crystal.
It's my new favorite film.
So 2000s.
Yeah, I love that idea that. Okay, so how does it work? Yeah, okay, so the Thorian Asari can like download clarify the vision for trying to piece this together for Shepard, and then later Liara is like, hey, give me that vision, and then Liara like can mind meld and understand things a little bit better as well. It's like the weird double whammy of Asari blending for the vision stuff.
Yeah,
I think it's
just
like
embracing eternity left and right.
That is so dumb, right? Embrace eternity. That's very dumb.
Wait, what is that? What am I missing?
It's what they say every time.
Every
Embrace
time,
eternity.
every time an Asari like does the mind meld, it's like embrace eternity, and they open their eyes all dramatic and they're black, and it's just like, yeah. I guess it feels especially dumb because it happens in rapid success. It's like
we're one after the other.
Yeah, it happens with the Thorian, and then immediately after that, like 10 minutes later, Liara's like, "Hey, let's embrace eternity again." Come on,
like a talker. Yeah, you're just like, in all these stuff, time you can figure out how to do it without having to say a punchline or tagline. Like like we can. Do you have to do that?
It's like an anime when characters announce the fighting moves they're doing. It's like, you don't need some catchy phrase for everything you're doing. Just do it.
But it is cooler. I agree, Joe.
Maybe it's like a ritual or like saying grace or something.
I like the exchange with Liara when you get back to the ship, but it falls into the trap of like, how long have people been interacting with aliens? Like, it's so dopey, but you got to do it in fiction every once in a while. What I'm talking about is when Liara comes back to the ship and she's like, I'm 106 years old. And then Ashley's like, whew, damn, hope I look that good. It's like, are you just learning about this now? Or it's like, Ashley, your entire life you should have been aware of Asari and how long they live. But the idea of like having her first reaction when Liara says it is funky.
Oh,
what's that?
Huh?
You're blue.
Harrison
trying to touch her hair. like, Ashley, stop it.
Hey, you know what I learned, by the way, that you know how Liara. Okay, sorry. I'm going to back up.
Please.
At GI, I did an email Q&A with Mac Walters asking a bunch of very specific nerdy questions. And I was asking about like, why do some Asari have eyebrows and some don't? And Liara very clearly has like eyebrows.
Mm.
And what I learned is that they are not eyebrows, but in fact, like, they're just like sort of facial markings that just looks suspiciously like eyebrows.
For the ones that we need to be a little more expressive.
Yeah. For the ones that the ones that you need to think are human, they have suspicious eyebrow markings rather than actual hairy eyebrows.
I don't know what it was about the Legendary Edition and this Asari in particular, but the Asari that comes out of the Thorian's little butthole, that character looked so good. It was like the first time in this game where I was like,
I agree.
what? Like something about that character, about it, like the green Asari is just like, you're somehow the best looking thing, not sexually or whatever, but just like visually, it's like this character just looks awesome.
I mean, excuse me, also sexually.
I mean, yes, also sexually. She can't have a
And it's
Thorian
voiced by
butthole.
Gwendolyn Yo, and she's I wrote that down. I was like, Shiala can get it? Question mark? Anyway.
And I forget if
I
it was-
didn't really know who the Asari party member was going to be, and because that character model looked so much better than the regular NPCs, I thought it was going to be her.
Oh, funny.
Oh,
that's
interesting.
Cool.
Sorry, it's just Liara. Well, she'll do.
I'll take it.
Little baby Liara.
Oh, baby. Innocent Liara.
That's right. Harrison Holt McHale says, I felt like the mining laser in the Prothean ruins on Artemis Tau is very poorly designed. Surely it shouldn't collapse a mine? It's not like Shepard moved where the laser was aiming. They just fired it once. Well, I mean, they knew when to stop. They had hit like the exact point. They're like, all right, no one touch the laser now, because if we touch it again, it'll explode. Be cool. You're talking about what a sweetheart Caden is, Sarah. Ryan Graylish writes in and says, shout out to the Caden Alenko gang. Best dialogue in the section was when he compares the Prothean ruins to the tile floor in a bathroom.
What?
If you have him in your team, he sees the Prothean ruins. He's like, this looks like a bathroom. It's
Oh my God, Caden. Honey,
he's a cool
please.
guy.
I'm trying to fight for you.
Honey, just keep your mouth closed. You're embarrassing me in public.
You're so sweet. Just
He did have a good line. I liked talking to Caden in the ship, though, and he had some line where he said, just talking about, the history of humanity in space, and he said, we finally get to the final frontier, and it's already settled, and the residents don't seem impressed by the view or dangers. I was like, that's a cool
he
summary.
actually
of where
has
they're
a
at.
really measured, like if Ashley is like, aliens are bad, like Caden has like, he's had plenty of experiences with aliens that aren't positive, and he maintains a pretty like, open-minded and balanced perspective around the whole thing. He's like, people, what the thing about everybody is we're all a mixed bag, and so like it's very grounding to talk to him and check in with him after these missions, because he always has kind of like a thoughtful approach to stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't look down on the other races, but he also snapped an alien's freaking neck who was his teacher.
It wasn't because he was an alien, it was because he was being mean to his girlfriend.
But that detail is just, it's so jarring about just like, oh yeah, and then I had to snap my teacher's neck. All right, moving on.
Trying to.
And
See,
then
that's the thing about
Paragon
Caden is
got it.
everyone's like, he's so soft, and you're like, he's a really dangerous biotic.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's insane.
The most Paragon guy. That's a good call.
This is why he keeps his stuff together now.
He breaks arms or he breaks necks, but then he goes and cries in the bathroom, staring
Yeah,
at the tile for hours afterwards. Yeah.
And looks at his meter. Oh no, my Paragon's gone down. I like
Leave him alone.
You're right. I liked his little backstory too about like, was it Jump Zero? That's the name of that research station. But it's such a fun idea of like, oh yeah, we had that on the far edge of our solar system because we were like researching faster than light travel, and then we found the mass relay, and we're like, all right, forget that freak station that we had built way out there. We don't need that no more. Fun
He's also
sci-fi
like
stuff.
he's an early generation of biotics, right? So it's like, I mean, I'm just going through whatever these changes are, all his little migraines and just like, and companies taking advantage and experimenting on people. I mean, I don't know. I think he's moderately interesting.
I'm liking him better at this playthrough than I have before. I mean, as painful as it is for me to admit that, because I will always joke about how lame and boring he is. I think that I find myself wishing that those later innovations that came in other BioWare games were present here, partially because I do wish that his story could be like fleshed out a little bit more. I think that of all the characters, he probably has the fewest ways to engage in dialogue. I feel like he was the one that the soonest just sort of resorted to stock responses. He didn't have any special quests. He didn't have any special quests for me to go on. It's like after he told me that story about snapping that guy's neck, it was just like, hey, what's going on? Hey, we're all in it, Commander. We're good. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then then that's it. I kind of wish I could get to know him a little better, but it seems like that door is closed.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I wonder if is that just I wonder if that's the same, because I mean, normally what Bioware does, which is so clever, is that you will have the same amount of runway, or like it's just friendship inflected or romance inflected with obviously some bonus scenes and other stuff for romance. But like, is it true? Like, because I haven't felt that yet. We haven't run out of things to say to each other. So I don't know, like if we're at the same point and I'm about to go into a phase where he's still like giggity, but like nothing to say, or if I will have more because we've triggered a romance. I don't know, because I haven't hit that point yet where he's like, no more chit chat, bye.
Yeah, well, I forget next episode.
Because they're usually really good about that, making sure that you always, that even if you're just friends, there's content. You're chatting.
Yeah.
Ben, did anyone write in or leave a comment on Patreon about Saren in this section?
Oh. I guess not. Let me control F Saren. People talked about they like.
I'd like to control F Saren. Sorry.
Excuse me, ma'am. Good Lord.
Sorry, excuse me.
I think people wrote in about his ship, and like it's interesting that it has like that indoctrination built into it, but not much beyond that.
So that's part of the point I wanted to make, I guess, is that like I think it's really funny that Saren is really present and is your villain in those first like 6 or 7 hours. You see him, you talk about him, and at this point, he almost, like for this section of the game, he almost reminds me of Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII because he's referenced, but he just isn't present.
Yeah.
You do not see Saren at all for me, I spent 7 hours playing for that first discussion and 30 hours playing for this discussion.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, I am 37 hours into the game and I have not seen the primary antagonist for 30 of those hours.
But it almost builds up his lore more because you're just like, oh, he's hot on the heels and trying to talk to these characters who have some connection to Saren. And I guess like, even stuff like Rex, that was really interesting that he told his backstory about working with Saren just to help build up that lore of, I knew he was bad news, Shepard, all that fun stuff.
I definitely feel that pressure of and frustration of like, I'm just one step behind him every step of the way.
Yeah. He already got to the cool old creatures before I did.
It was me that killed them.
The bad guy.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy.
I like talking to the Asari that gets spat out by the Thorian as well, because there's like a line where she says everything. She's the one who tells you about Sovereign and all that stuff. And then Shepard can ask like, what about you? Then Shiala, what are you all about? And she really just like, nothing. I just followed Benezia. She's like writes off her entire history. Like, I'm not important. Please don't pay attention to me. Really just focus on Saren, please. Like a weird move for her writing, but it works. Let's see. Shimmy Neutron writes in and says the Thorian is disgusting inside and out. Puking clones are gross. Well, that's true, but he knows so much. It's cool that
that's subjective.
Yeah, he's been around for so long. I gotta give it up. Let's see. Nick Wright completely forgot about the Thorian since the first time he played. Has anybody had a moment of that, of just completely forgetting what was in this game?
I forgot the Thorian's name.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I forgot the name.
But
for sure.
I definitely have forgotten a lot of stuff. I mean, the Thorian is definitely that moment of like, I forget what the mystery is about these colonies. And it's like, oh, that's right. Big ancient tree thing. Got it.
I remembered plant possession, but I did not remember the name. And I didn't remember what it looked like, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Speaking of how it looks, downtown.
I remembered Shiala, actually.
Well, she's unforgettable. Downtown submits a comment on Patreon saying, anyone notice how much darker the Pharaoh's colony seems in the Legendary Edition compared to the original? I think it was the only visual update I wasn't thrilled with. I guess I didn't notice that. I'm not doing too many side-by-side comparisons and stuff. But let's see. Do you want some dorky stuff about Pharaohs?
Yeah. Yes.
Lachlan Belford writes in, says, there are actually several factors that determine if the colony survives or not. You need 13 quote-unquote viability points to save the colony. Each colonist you save is worth 1 point. Each side quest you did, food, water, power, is worth 1 point. Sparing Shiala is worth 5 points. And if you manage to convince Ethan Jiang to help, which takes 12 charm or 10 intimidate, he is worth 12 points. So even a renegade shepherd who kills all the colonists can still save the colony by convincing Jiang and doing a single side quest.
It's fascinating.
I do love that little nerdy number crunching.
Love it. Love the stuff under the hood. You did?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Gotta do it.
You can't trust her.
She's too beautiful to live.
But you can trust the Rachni Queen?
Ow. Yes.
Cade Gronlin, going back to Artemis Tau, Cade Gronlin writes in and says, the Paragon line to Joker to be evacuated from Therum is, quote, on the double, mister. It sounds super out of place compared to basically every other line of dialogue in the game, especially when dealing with other Alliance personnel. Well, that's true. Everything's got to pop in.
It's like a 1930s mob movie.
Yeah.
It's like what you say to your son who's dawdling when you're trying to get him out the door to the bus.
Yeah.
I liked there's a line when you wrap up Novaria, when Joker calls you over the intercom, and maybe just even when you're back in the Normandy, I forget. But like he sounds really tired, and I love it. I love just a little performance from Seth Green about just like at this point in the mission, he is just fried, and it could be seen as maybe he was tired in the voice booth, but I would choose to imagine that it's like his character just being exhausted with this mission because he's been flying the Normandy for so long now.
I think he's fantastic. I think he's really good. And if anything, I'm actually surprised. Something I did forget was just how little there is to chat with him about until subsequent titles.
Right.
I keep going up and being like, "What's up, Joker?" And he'll be like, "You hear about my bones?" I'm like, "I know about your bones." All right, never mind. I'm out. Like, you know.
So we just talked about this. We talked about this minutes ago.
You mean you don't know? No, actually, I do. Oh my God, back up.
Yeah, Sean Mills writes in saying, I especially enjoyed Joker's backstory and the reveal that he has a rare condition called Vralik syndrome that makes it so his bone structure is hollow and brittle. There's something interesting about the idea of an ace pilot who can't physically move his legs. Of course, my renegade shepherd immediately warned him not to infect the rest of the crew when he had confessed his condition to me. That's such a dick move. Don't let your stupid legs infect us. All right, carry on, soldier. Good God.
Well, also, like, I think maybe I had bleed over from Battlestar Galactica, just knowing the G's that pilots are subjected to. And so I think it's because talking to Joker, I'm like, wow, how are you doing this? Like, what?
Yeah. Do you think, so on the Ringers podcast, Rewatchables, about like old movies, they have a segment called Apex Mountain where they debate like what was at its peak when this was released, which actor, which concept. And I was thinking a lot about it. Is this Seth Green Apex Mountain? Like 2007, a cool kind of understated, good human role. Is this top Seth Green?
So is the apex of, this like
his career?
Seth Green at the height of his
Yes.
of his popularity, or is this Seth Green like the best of Seth Green we ever got of
I
his
think
talent?
height of popularity.
Oh.
No, he was in Buffy before that, right?
Well, and Austin Powers, but
And Austin Powers.
So it's right when Austin Powers 1 releases, that's Apex Mountain for Seth Green?
I think this is Apex Mountain to me because I love him. I love his performance the most of the performances of his that I have seen. So that's my feeling.
You'll take it.
I feel like he's walking down the other side of Apex Mountain by the time 2007 comes along. Not like, and again,
Yeah.
no insult to Seth Green.
Chicken.
I think he does. I think he's doing a good job, but I feel like if you're talking about Apex,
Yeah.
Well, what about Robot Chicken though? Because seriously though, like that, because Robot Chicken was huge for a while, and he's great on it, and he's a huge force behind it. So like,
It's probably still on the air for all I know.
I think it is.
Is it really?
It might be.
Oh my God.
It might well be.
That'd be
So
amazing.
we'll find out. But I mean, but that era, I'd have to go back and look, like when I was watching lots of Robot Chicken. But
Yeah.
I feel like it was before Mass Effect came out that you could, let's say, just walk up to a stranger on the street and say like, "Do you know who Seth Green is?"
oh, we haven't put it to the Gen Z test.
And have the answer be yes. I think that's prior to Mass Effect.
Okay. Could be.
Huh.
Right.
Wow.
Rat Race. Scooby-Doo 2. Adventure.
Can't hardly wait.
those
That's
peaks?
the
Can't hardly
best-
wait.
that's the-
Oh, you know what? Can't hardly wait that's in the running.
But that's also like that's
earlier.
pre-peak. That's pre-peak.
way earlier. Way earlier.
Hey, Justin
Also,
McKinney.
super underrated movie.
There it is.
Fantastic.
Justin McKinney submits a comment over on Patreon, though, and says, please stop talking about Seth Green. No, he says, the Port Hanshin section of
I will
Novaria.
not.
The Port Hanshin section of Novaria is a real standout to me. It's unlike anything else in the rest of the series in that you can accomplish your goal of leaving the port in a lot of different ways. Most people will probably work with Laura Quinn to get the garage pass, but you can also convince him to testify against Enolius. How do you pronounce that one again?
Ananias.
Thank you. Ananias with Gianna Parasini.
Gianna Parasini.
Thank you, expert. Or you can just give the evidence to Ananias and get the pass and some credits. You can even skip all of this by telling Ananias about the Hanar merchant Uphold, who asks you in a side quest to smuggle something in.
Right.
There's a lot to unpack in this whole Port Hanshin. Leo, what did you think of Noveria, the Snow Corporation planet?
It was another planet that I really loved the vibe once I landed there and wish I kind of got to explore more. But I did enjoy exploring the kind of like plaza, taking the elevators to the different regions and getting a feel for what that place was like. I felt like it was the best like world building of a place that isn't exactly besieged, you know? This is like a place where people go to exist in Mass Effect.
Yeah, and
I love Annaleus. I loved hating Annaleus. I think he's great. His lack of time for you is seething. Is like just what's the word? Scarring.
Very hateable.
You're fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he's so much like the other guy on Ferris, where he's like, everything, this entire world is private property now, so be cool, dude.
Yeah.
I feel like every planet needs to have one of those guys. Basically, I mean, you've got Udina on the Citadel,
right?
You've got Zhang on Pharos, and you have Annaleus on Noveria.
Right.
That character who's just designed for you to be like, I'm gonna shoot that guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
The punchable creature or person, in the world. Every planet needs it.
Yeah.
Also,
he's like, I'm gonna charge you for however much, like for the time. Like I received 1,500 emails, and so like you're on company time now or whatever.
So good.
Like,
and I love just like a lot of those design things on Noveria. Like I like the little flying gun turrets. They're just so cute. It looks like they should have like bobbly googly eyes on them or something when they're like doing their little squirmy move around. It's fun. Chris H writes in and says, hey, how is Lorik aware of the phrase the fly in the lotion? Do Turians moisturize? Lorik's the one who gets you in the garage on Noveria, says Chris. Yeah, he's just a very smart guy. Yeah, it's a nice reminder that Turians listen and pick up human phrases. But he
gets it wrong. That's the joke.
He does?
Yeah, it's a fly in the ointment.
Oh, that's why it wasn't that
like, what is it, the fly in the lotion? And you're like, close.
Okay.
Close enough.
There's also the fact that I don't think that all these characters are necessarily speaking like a galactic standard language. I think that I don't remember if it's in this game that they go into it. I may have missed the codex, but it's like the idea is that your Omni tool sort of has an instantaneous alien translation function. So that could also be a weird Google Translate moment of an idiom not going through properly.
Yeah.
I think he tried to do the thing and he came really close.
Right.
Points for effort. I mean, I think Shepard at one point does say when someone's speaking science or something, I think it was on Pharos, which is like, care to translate that into galactic?
Right.
So there is, so I don't know if that's just for humans though.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a codex in there somewhere about it. Let's see. Noveria. Ryan Fauchid writes in and says, hello, fellow Spectres. Did any of you take a moment to talk to the Turian mechanic Lee, standing in front of the garage in Noveria? Something about this random NPC's overall laid-back vibe really resonated with me on this playthrough. Up to that point in Noveria, it had been cold or manipulative towards Shepard. Enter this friendly Turian who's obviously just out of his element. I think this is something that Golden Age BioWare truly excelled at, filling their worlds with unnecessary but interesting characters whose only real purpose is to make the environments feel more alive.
He just like gave context or something. Like I really wish that he had been involved in some mission or something. He's got like a slight Brooklyn vibe going.
Yeah,
it's like a Brooklyn Turian mechanic dude. And I was like, yes, you're great.
You need a break on that planet from everybody just being an uptight corporate person. Yeah, he's the perfect laid back dude by the garage over there. Sounds like Glenn Schofield, the developer. It's just perfect. Do you like Noveria, Joe?
Yeah. In fact, you're talking to Lorik Queen or whatever his name is. That is where I used the exploit to maximize my renegade points, because you can continually there's a way that you can repeat the dialogue chain in which you convince him to testify when you have the evidence.
Okay.
And you can just stack on the Paragon and renegade points for it.
I should have
still gonna testify.
Oh yeah.
Still gonna testify?
Same outcome. You just get into it's like me talking to Joker about his bones. Like you can just keep doing it and cycling the path. So if in it is Paragon and Renegade, and he sits there, you just can keep doing it. I forgot about that. I did know about it, but I forgot. I should have done it. I'm very quickly, because I did not have enough of either to do anything with Zhang persuasively, and so I may start to hit points where I don't have enough. I have like more charm than intimidate, but I have a handful of each, but I'm not maxed out. So
I think that's how I was able to get to raise my intimidate cap high enough that I could do the Zhang thing when it came up, was that I had spent some time doing that. I also thank you to to the commenter who mentioned the money exploit.
Oh no.
Because I used that also and got myself a lot of sets of Savant amps and Colossus armor. I am fully decked out as a squad.
Well, you're playing this game so well, Joe. It's like you don't even have to play the game. Congratulations. You're really doing it.
Anything I can do to minimize interaction with the game. That's what I'm doing. No, I thought on the point of Noveria though, I guess I still kind of get Citadel vibes from it in the way that the very to use Leo's phrase from the last one, there is an Xbox 360 amount of people milling about in that open plaza, right?
Right.
And it's like, it's funny to think that this game came out in the same year that Assassin's Creed did, that has those big milling crowds that you push your way through and stuff. And in this game, you try and get a sense of this being a place that people go to and live in and work in and whatever. But at the same time, you've got like a smattering of people here and there who are just standing in the exact same spot doing nothing in particular,
Yeah.
Is there there's that like the way that the Noveria Plaza kind of dips and there's a couple levels, like I feel like running through there, I had memories of like talking to people and doing stuff in there, but this time around I did not. I mean, did anyone have any conversations at all with anybody on that level?
Not really. I don't think.
I didn't miss anything. I just made up some mememories, I guess.
Yeah, just like the undercover person you talk to in that area later on and stuff. But yeah, I don't remember anything too huge. Tommen.gif writes in and said, did anyone else get offended that the Hanar on Noveria only offers you 250 credits to smuggle something for them? Even though I just bought a gun for 400,000?
I did.
I
did, and I was mean about it. And then he gave me more.
I'm annoyed by all these criminal corporate crooks on Noveria and stuff. So the second that Hanar was trying to pull that crap about smuggling, I'm like, just shut him down immediately, and immediately went and told the boss about it. Like, yeah, this Hanar is bad news. Yeah, but it's like this. I'm trying to shut down illegal stuff, and if this Hanar immediately is like, hey, I've got some illegal stuff here, it's like, all right, well, I need to stick by my code. You're not getting by just because you're a cute, weird Hanar.
I was like, he's a struggling business owner. He's made this deal, and he's probably gonna get killed by this Krogan warlord if he can't deliver. So that's why I did it.
Yeah, helped him out.
What I don't know is if you can go talk to Inamorta before resolving that quest, because he's upstairs in the bar, and then he's just really surly. And I was like, did I miss content where I could go talk to him about the purchase or what he's going to do with it or anything? Like maybe I.
Yeah, I got that same sense. I don't remember, but it would be weird if you couldn't talk to him. I don't know. Did either of you guys go talk to the Krogan in the bar area?
No, I didn't go talk to him.
He's on the second level of the bar.
Okay.
So what I did is I talked to Opal, and then I was like, all right, I'll go get your thing. And then I went back out to the Normandy and I got it and I brought it back and I tied it up. But if I had gone to the bar first, maybe I could have talked to Inamorta and been like, so are you a terrible person? Did I not give you highly experimental weapons mods?
Right. Or you can be like, hey, I'll give you a discount. Or
right.
Yeah. Ian T. Clark writes in and says, on Noveria, after ratting out the merchant, Opal, to admin Ananias, I ran back to the spot where the Hanar was selling the goods to see what would happen. I let Opal know what I did, and his response was something like, this will make this one's life here very difficult. My shepherd's response was basically, that's how it goes. Opal then asked me to leave, but the game gave me some option to ask if I could still buy something. The Hanar's response made me chuckle. He sighs before saying, very well. And you can keep buying from him like nothing happened. That's so sad.
Opal.
Aaron,
speaking of buying things, this is something that like I found very frustrating about the way the game works, just on like a mechanical level. It's the way the shops replenish.
Yeah.
Like I had to go and like I had to do research online to figure out like, okay, wait a minute. What are the what determines what items are available where and when? Because there are times when it's like you want a specific thing. In my case, like there's a set of armor that's called the Colossus armor, which is my favorite. But it's like whether or not you get it and who you get it for feels so random. It's like like maybe the guy on the Normandy is selling it, but he's selling heavy Colossus armor. So it's like, ugh, I guess I have to give that to Ashley instead of wearing it myself. I want my Colossus armor, so I had to do a bunch of digging around to remind myself how it works. And it's a really annoying system that you basically like, if the short version is like, if you want to get something specific, you need to save before you talk to a merchant. And if they don't have what you want, reload.
Save scum.
And talk. Yeah, I mean, you save scum it, but it's like the trick is that you have to do it when they're generating new inventory. So it's like, if you've already talked to a merchant and nothing special has happened, it's just going to be the same inventory. It only changes when you like level up.
Oh.
So then so if you level up and then go back to the merchant, then it'll refresh it. So then that's when you save it. But then the merchants will also have, like the one on the Normandy has a different static inventory based on whether or not he's at Novaria, Pharos, the Citadel.
Because the theory is that he's getting inventory from where you're visiting.
Yeah. So I mean, that's already too deep and boring, but.
Is this how you spent 30 hours in the
Yeah, no kidding. My God.
I spent a lot of time saving and reloading and going between merchants and selling and rebuying items. But
hey, each their own. Aaron T submits a comment on Patreon saying, "Hey, Normandy Maxers, that's it. You got us. Why does a shepherd, a specter, who can go anywhere, do anything, or shoot anyone who gets in the way, go through all the trouble of getting involved with shady locals to obtain a garage pass, when the Normandy could just fly right over the building and drop the Mako directly onto the road outside of the garage? Hell, why not just drop the Mako on the front door of the Peak 15 facility? Come on, Shepard, act like a dang specter." Well, come on, you little game. You always need like a cute little garage to land the Normandy, right? It's a very specific thing. They can't just off-road it.
Well, except you anytime you land on an uncharted world, you see the Normandy like pooping out the Mako from mid-atmosphere.
Yeah, you really could. It's a great point.
But
then we wouldn't meet our lovely garage man.
That's right. Brooklyn. And that makes it all worth it. Life is about those happy accidents.
Yeah.
Nick Olson writes in and says, "Hey, gang, I'm loving replaying the game so far, but the memory core puzzle in Novaria brought back so many bad memories. Not only does the game not tell you the rules of the minigame, but the cacophonous blaring of trumpets when you solve it is sure to leave you scarred for life." I saw that crap immediately, and I'm like, what's this? I can pay 100 Omnigel to get out of it? Done. Any way to bypass a puzzle, I'm all in for.
It's a common puzzle, though. I mean, that's a classic, that one. The little stackies. I just did it in Carto again. Huh?
It's Tower of Hanoi? Is that what
it's called?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just because it's classic doesn't mean it's fun. Like, does anybody?
You're right.
No.
Just you know.
But I mean, that also taps into another thing though, where it's like the idea. So I can pay Omnigel to not do a puzzle, but I can also pay Omnigel to just open treasure chests and stuff all over the place. Like, how does it not raise a flag that, like, boy, doing this minigame sure is annoying. We need to give players a way to bypass it. But we should also probably limit their ability to do that. Is like, there are a few things like that as I'm playing the Legendary Edition, I guess I wonder why. I'm not saying I expected BioWare to go all out and like remake the whole thing or rebuild it or whatever, but it's like, why keep those dumb mini games in there?
The hacking, the pressing the button in sequence, like the first episode of this Deepest Dive, it felt like a nitpick, but now I've spent so much time doing it that I officially have a problem with it.
I've only done Simon Says like twice, like the witch button order and then remember.
Yeah, I do it on every box I see.
I've been just doing this little super hexagon-y thingy. Do we have different minis? What's happening?
Super hexagon-y thing. I don't even know what that is.
Well, you know, like there's like rings, and then there's like little obstacles that are circling around it in different directions, and you have to navigate, or like Frogger or something. You have to navigate your cursor to the center.
What are you talking about?
Have that
the wrong game?
It's Mass Effect 1, Sarah.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with class or something?
What?
Does that have to do with the class you are or something? That's so
or
weird.
Is it? Because like it shouldn't just be a difference between electronics and decryption, right? It should just be.
Oh, maybe it's something with that. I have no idea.
Every time I need to open something that's locked, whether it's like salvaging a probe, recovering some wreckage, or opening a weapons locker, it's always that Simon Says game for me.
What is happening? What is this difference?
Somebody in the comments will let you know. That's really interesting.
Please. Yeah.
Chris Prohaska asked, did anyone else think it was weird when you have the option to agree to not be let out of that containment zone in Novaria when you go to make the cure if you come back with an anomaly. I know it never actually happened, but it's odd that the game's good dialogue choice in that scenario could have led to Shepard condemning themselves and his team to just rot away in that cell forever. Well, yeah.
Say that one more time. What is it?
So there is the containment zone in Noveria, and it's like, I'm so confident that I can go cure those people that you can lock me in there if there's any anomaly with this virus or whatever it is.
right.
And so, yeah, Chris is saying that that's a bold move for somebody on a quest to save the galaxy.
You could have been lying.
Yeah. Oh, Shepard would have busted out of that immediately. He's like, what? I'm infected? Get me out of here. Just goes running through the streets of Noveria. By the way, in that area.
A promise is a promise, he says, and sits down on the floor.
Loaded to the gills with weapons and explosives.
Anybody know any word games?
You ever tried Simon Says? It's pretty sweet. I love in this
Great
section.
way for the 1-year-olds to learn memory development. You should do it a lot.
I love in this section there is a Volus. The Volus, speaking of alien performances, are always secret juggernauts, but this guy named Han Olar, the Volus, is like one of my favorite characters in the game so far, where everybody just talks about how like he lost his mind and he is not sane anymore. And he just talks in this very sad voice. And he's like, I'm sane, Shepard. God, am I sane? And then he like tells that story about like when everything went to hell, there was a doctor and he like rushed to get out of this area and like sealed the door, and the doctor ended up dying, and the backstory there. But just a weird, tragic figure that again is
he's great.
Good Bioware stuff.
And he has that line where you're like, it wasn't your fault. And he's like, you think I want absolution? There is none. And
Right.
it's just so like heavy, and it's great.
Yeah.
He's very good. Yeah.
I also liked the Asari that you meet who's like meditating in that area as you're coming
He's over
through.
it. Just the most over it. Sorry.
Yeah, but I like that idea of like, yeah, I like RPGs where some characters are just like, who are you? I don't want to talk to you right now. You know, like real life, when you try and talk to people on the street and they say, please, sir, I'm not interested in communicating. But then that Asari comes back to you and is actually secretly evil. And it's like, oh, I wish she was just a good Asari that was more interested in meditating than talking to some random human running by. But,
Both mean, but with a really robust meditation practice. Yeah.
yes, exactly. I'm meditating on how to get more evil.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also part of the way the vocabulary of the game works, though, right? Is like if there's anyone that you can talk to, actually like engage with in conversation, that's kind of the game's way of signaling to you, like this is a person that you should be paying attention to.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yeah.
if you could have an in-depth conversation with every nobody who's just meditating, this game would take so much longer to get.
It'd take like 30
Is that
hours
my
to get through
version
this
of
section.
free roaming in space? Like it's my version of landing on planets, being able to talk about absolutely nothing with every single NPC? I don't know.
This is the game.
Yeah.
All of Noveria, maybe I just wasn't in the best lore mood or something, but I feel like it does a much worse job introducing you to what's going on outside of like the politics of the little area and stuff. I think that's fine. But once you get actually into like the systems, and all your dialogue prompts are just about like, let me tell you about the piping and hot labs. It's like, I just, there's not enough like of a character focused for a lot of this section. It's just a lot of systems talk about the systems of Peak 15 that didn't really grab me. I don't know, Leo, if it struck you as a compelling section.
Not especially. I was kind of making my way through it very briskly. It was kind of combat heavy, as a lot of these sections were for me. It's weird how little we talk about the combat for how it's kind of 60% of what we did, right?
Oh, we'll keep glossing past that. It's a good game. It's a good game, Leo. Don't worry. We'll keep going. Well, what'd you think of it?
The combat?
Yeah.
You know, it's a kind of eat lead, Return of Mad Hazard type combat. The powers, it's, you know, you want the powers to be interesting interactions, right? Which sounds like that's what 2 does great, and I'm really excited to get to that. But this, it's very like, you kind of do the one gimmicky thing your class can do, and it gets very repetitive very quickly. You can't do that much with the tool set, it seems to me.
Yeah, I'm just loading up on sniping. Just snipers and pistols, and I love the pistol wielding Shepard, but it is a little rote.
I will say that I have refound one of my favorite things about Mass Effect, and like, and it is Garrus specific, and it really builds later. But like one of my favorite sort of embodied character relationships is the feeling of Garrus sniping from behind you, like taking someone out that you need in the right moment, and like especially because I'm a sentinel, so I have a couple things. So I have like lift or if Liara's got singularity, and just like giving him cryo ammo and having him like lift, and then knowing that and then having Garrus like just set him up, knock him down. It feels really good. It's pretty fun.
Oh yeah, but yeah, you're right, Leo. I mean, it is telling that out of hundreds and hundreds of comments, we got 2 about combat. Like really, but you're right. When it's the majority of kind of what we're doing here, it is certainly telling.
It's like, I just want games, the easiest difficulty should be story difficulty, and that should change the number of combat encounters, not just the health everyone has. That's what I was thinking playing through this, because I did put it down to the easiest just because I want to, it's not what I'm here for. And when I'm challenged by it, it's not, especially exciting still. So I'm just like, I don't want it to hurt my impression of this game because I'm getting too bogged down in the thing I'm not here to do. But I do wish you could just like skip some of those basic encounters that don't really add much for me.
Yeah, I've actually found this experience to be easier than I remembered it. I don't know if I'm just doing more content, so more leveled up, or if they tweak something with legendary, or maybe in the final third it'll get a lot more challenging. But I remember a lot of hearing Saren's theme again and again the first time I played this game back in the day.
That's a good point.
Joe's squinting like,
oh no, I'm just thinking about that. It's like my big memories of that, hearing that theme over and over again, are like playing on Insanity. Did you ever do that?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just like bad.
In order to get all the achievement points in the original one, you had to beat the game on Insanity. So there was like at that point, it really, like, the weaknesses in the combat shine through much stronger than the strengths.
Right.
And
sure.
I got very frustrated with it. And I'm happy to see that in this one, they've removed the trophy. Now is just like, beat Mass Effect 1 on any difficulty. And it doesn't matter which one. And you can get the platinum for Mass Effect 1. But I think that there's also a sort of like collection-wide trophy set that applies to all 3 games. And that involves beating them on Insanity. But,
dumb question for you, Joe. I'm Googling it as I'm asking you. Did they ever add damage numbers? In Andromeda, did they have damage numbers? It feels like this type of game where I would actually appreciate some numbers popping off.
Oh, I don't remember ever seeing damage numbers. I guess it maybe was an option, but I don't know that I've ever. If so, I've never turned them on.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it is.
That they walked back on a little bit.
Was that, Sarah?
There was people were loud about the damage numbers in Anthem.
Oh, really? Did they get rid of them in Anthem?
Yeah. Huh?
Did they get rid of them in Anthem or make it an option?
They
or
certainly
something?
toned them down.
Okay.
They did address it.
That's weird. That feels like a certain era. Are we just past that now? Where is anybody still annoyed by damage numbers?
I don't know.
I mean, I think what's annoying about damage numbers, for me anyway, is that like they're supposed to quantify something, but you don't feel it, right? Like you don't feel stronger. You just see that you're doing 100 damage instead of 50 damage or something. So at that point, it's just sort of visual noise. I don't know.
I mean, I think that every game that wants them just has to have the option to turn them off.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Isaac Sainova writes in and says, trying to fight multiple Krogan at the same time can be the most frustrating thing on the harder difficulty levels. They hit like a truck and they survive my sniper rifle shots. How rude. Yeah,
This is why you need throw, honey.
You need stasis. You need singularity. You need to be a bastion.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Lift.
I love having like just such a clear silhouette of like, okay, Krogan coming at you. It's going to be a problem. Especially, I think in Artemis Tau, where like, that might be the first one you fight, where it has that whole cutscene of him like stomping up and it's like this super low angle of him coming in. They're pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, Doreen Clyer writes in and says, courtesy of Nick from Atlanta. I don't know how this works, Doreen. You relaying something? Talk about a mass relay. Anyways, did anyone bring Liara to the confrontation with Matriarch Benezia? I did, just because I love having Liara with me. She's also my love interest in the game, and forgot that she would be seeing her mother die in front of her. Regardless, I thought the conversation at the ship after Naveria was done really well and showed maturity and depth on Liara's part. Yeah, I did bring Liara to the Benezia fight, and I think I was always expecting a little bit more. Like, they talk a little bit, but I think it's just, who knows about the way this thing was actually constructed, but I wanted them to, like, embrace or have some physical interaction or something, but it's still just kind of Liara standing behind you being like, I don't know about that, mother. That's about it.
Not here to go easy on you, Mom.
Right.
Okay. I mean, she calls her by a pet name as she croaks.
Yeah, what is it? It's Little
Wing.
Wing. Yeah, I think that's a really nice moment in there of like, oh, no context for that, but that just implies some backstory.
History.
Yeah.
That whole fight, I think, is narratively or just sort of characterization, like dialogue-wise, is a little rough to me.
It feels like a middle school theater performance. Like I don't know, I can't even track what's happening at times, you know, where it's like, Joe, you seem like you're with me.
Just her death, I guess, is like,
yes.
When you said middle school theater production, is like, that's what it feels like to me. It's like when a character needs to die in a badly done play, it's always like, remember, you are my little wing. Whoa.
But it's not even that. It's worse than that, because she goes, remember, you are my little wing. No light. They always said there'd be a light at the end of
Yeah.
the...
Oh, that, yeah, they always said there'd be light. It's just like, oh, that didn't, like, that the lame death coupled with the lack of payoff of having Liara there, which you feel like you bring her along because you want to hear that, the game has told you that this is going to pay off. And it just sort of like peters out.
Also, I'm just confused, and I think it helps it feel kind of rushed and just weird, but I'm confused just about, like, first of all, what she was doing during the fight. She just, like, had that shield up, and then I was confused about even how she died. It's like, it wasn't like a big fight against her. It seemed like it was just kind of like one shot, and then I was like, oh wait, a cutscene's starting and she's dying? Everything just felt confusing in that whole sequence.
It's like she's either expending energy summoning people or, like, creating them whole cloth, like, but you don't see people kind of run in, but I'm like, why are you so tired? Like, what, you know, and then she just gets more...
It's like it's a Luke Skywalker death in some ways. It's a little confusing. But yeah, the downside of having Liara in on this fight is I am not a smart person, but I'm not ashamed to admit that I spent 15 seconds just unloading in Liara, because when the sorry squad of commandos is in the room, I didn't know who was who. I was like, you! It was like, oh God, no, that's my girl. What have I done? And she didn't mention it, so I guess we're still cool.
That's racist.
Crap, you can't say that. I mean, Ashley just unloaded into Liara. It was really messed up, and we all shamed her royally afterwards. I'm curious if there's any, like, big Benezia fans online. She must have some sort of fan base, right? She just feels like such a zero, and she's just got novelty cleavage for a song.
Yeah.
She's just
so
like a
loud.
weird character.
It's loud.
Loud cleavage.
It is.
Let's see. Oh, Jeff Enright says playing on a PS3 port. Interesting. Which I forgot that came out in like 2013 or something. It's like a weird time for that. Anyways, I finished the last half and most of combat for the Noveria main quest completely shorthanded because of some glitch. My renegade femshep decided to enter the restricted area and triggered an adversarial reaction, so I had to fight my way to Matriarch Benezia through the private security. The glitch happened as soon as I opened the locked door with 2 auto turrets, and somehow Rex was gone. In the weapon skill radio menus, he showed up as blocked the entire rest of the mission. I did find Rex eventually, though. The lazy bastard is waiting for me back on the Normandy. Oh, good. I haven't encountered too many glitches. Like, occasionally, like, I'll do like a dugga, like, stuck in geometry thing for a little bit. But has anybody hit any glitches for whatever versions they're playing on?
I don't think that thing's a glitch that went on. I think that it's like if you enter that area with the turrets, it's like a restricted secret area.
Oh, you think that's what they're talking about? Just the Okay, where
but,
they give you the warning about it?
But with that being said, yes, I've hit a bunch of weird glitches.
I think you and I hit the same stuck backwards glitch. I hit the Varen area in Pharos, where you fight the Alpha Varen or whatever. My squad mates were stuck in the doorway and wouldn't follow me anywhere else until I reloaded.
Weird.
But, yeah.
It's not really a bug, but all the time in combat, I'll take cover and I'll see my party member clearly wanting to take cover where I am, but it's taken, so they just stand next to me instead and refuse to go get their own piece of cover until I leave.
There's a weird moment in Noveria. Tell me if I'm reading too much into this or I've just spent my life thinking too much about video games. But there's a moment on Noveria where there's a line where they're like, why are the turrets facing the wrong way? They're like, oh, they want to keep people in as much as they want to keep others out. And I was just thinking way too much about that, but like, what an interesting little tidbit. Because like, I don't know where it would come from. It comes from some level of great interaction between an environment artist and a writer, Or do you think that's just a writer writing that weird piece of context lore of just, oh, well, let's have the turrets in this one room facing this way to help add to that? Or
You mean like whose idea? Like where did the idea
Yeah,
originate?
or is it the environment artist placing turrets and they placed it there and said, maybe we could write some lore, just a quick line of dialogue to explain it or something.
It's interesting.
What is the true origin point of environmental storytelling?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Speaking of wondering.
Probably any of the above.
Yeah.
Could have been any of the above, I guess, right?
It could be. Sarah, you're a delight. I know you have other stuff going on tonight. Did you have to bow out here?
I think I probably should, just because if I was going to leap right into, I have to have a costume and everything. It's a mess.
I understand.
There's a lot.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Although people did request in the comments for everybody to share their shepherd at some point. So at some point before the next episode, you can share your shepherd on Twitter, which your Twitter is...
Oh, at Selmaleh. SELMALEH. And I've been, most of my Twitter today has just been promoting this thing that I have to go hop off and do, which is interactive D&D.
Ooh.
Yay.
How does that work?
The audience votes via polls on Facebook for what happens. So it's kind of like an intergalactic Hunger Games where we've all been captured and we have to make it through the maze as a party. But the audience gets to weigh in and enjoy the schadenfreude of us failing and fighting things.
That sounds amazing.
It should be very fun. Speaking of aliens, I play like a space pirate squid boy Scottish jerk, and he's fun. I love him very much.
That sounds perfect. So people can follow you on Twitter and find the link for all that fun stuff?
Find out all about that, if that made any sense to you.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Leo and Ben, I need to also help out so I can watch that interactive D&D thing.
Okay, that's totally understandable. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, Sarah, thanks for being here. We typically
you for
clap
having me.
out for having people transition out. So you need to do one clap as your big grand exit. But thank you. We'll talk to you next week, eh?
Can't wait. I'm so stoked. This is and continues to be so much fun to apply this level of like attention and thought and to have this fun conversation about this game that means so much to me. So thank you for having me back.
That's very sweet. All right. Clap out, Sarah. Bye. Beautiful. Hang on. I'll make that audio clap. Okay, perfect. All right. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for being a trooper.
See you next time.
Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. All right, let me note this time code and rearrange this. We have some side quests and stuff to go through. This seems to be the exact wrong layout. Joe, we did a show today.
Yeah?
It seemed like the community dug it. Leo, I don't know how you felt about it. It wasn't like a secret slam dunk or anything, but it was kind of like an interesting level of a clusterfuck where it was a show, it was like New Show Plus where we just, let the community vote. And the show was just called What's for Lunch? And it was just us eating our lunches and talking about our lunches and then video calling with the community.
Why I saw in the Discord that it was a comment or like interact on Good Eats. And I was like, why is that the channel for interacting with New Show Plus?
Yeah, it's a very dumb reason.
Speaking of which, can we get you on to do Knife Eat sometime, Joe?
Ooh, we've got to do Knife Eat. It's definitely a sister show to What's for Lunch and MinnMax in a way.
Forgot about that. What's the story behind Knife Eat?
What do you mean?
I think it was Ben Reeves' idea, but God, how would we have come up with that? But yeah, just trying to eat different things with only a knife.
I just remember the number one was nachos in my mind. Like, can you eat nachos with a very sharp knife?
Yeah, was this on the GI show that we were talking about?
It was.
Remember.
I remember. It has like really dark
office.
memories for me because I remember talking about it like after the layoffs when Backstage Pass content. Believe it or not, a lot of people were saying "fuck it," and like Leo, I remember you in particular. You're like, "Fuck it, I don't want to do anything." Like, what's the dumbest thing that we could spend our time doing? Is kind of how I remember that and the idea of let's make a cooking show called Knife Eat.
I don't remember whose idea it was, but I definitely remember being a part of those discussions.
Okay,
I would love to do an episode of Knife Eat.
Okay, great,
awesome.
Okay, and we are back. Sarah clapped into Leo. Hey, Owen McCarter wrote in. You know Owen, y'all?
He's Owen Mike Carter.
Woo-wee! Why does the galaxy map not tag the side mission? Asks Owen. Pretty annoying having to leave the map, look at my side mission journal and remember Horsehead, Argo, something, and then search for said system and cluster. And on top of that, click on each planet and stare at the A button prompt to see if it says land or survey. Fun process, says Owen.
Oh, boy.
It's weird doing that stuff and thinking about like, somebody probably loves this. They love having to explore and feeling like they're really charting the galaxy and figuring out,
Yeah.
surveying each planet and everything. But yeah, the navigation stuff like that is just ridiculous to me. It's so hard to find where I'm going sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to have to be like, you have to go into the quest text for it to be like, go to this system in the Argos Row cluster, and then you have to be like you have to back out to read the text and then enter the galaxy map and then go to the cluster, and then by that point you're like, wait a minute, what system was it? Was it this system or that one? And then you have to go to both of them and see which one has the planets you can land on and
The whole thing.
And then have you guys run into the stupid asteroids that are unknown that you need to scan in the rocky belts in the systems too? Yeah. It's just another dumb layer of exploration that you do in the galaxy map.
But just to be clear though, Joe, this game is the best, right?
I mean, like I said, my run through of it this time, or maybe I didn't go into this whole thing, but like, it's definitely just feeling a little bit more aged to me.
Yeah.
And that like I still appreciate it on like the nostalgic level, but like I know I was saying earlier, there are just things that I don't know why BioWare didn't fix, that I don't think are huge, rewriting combat or enemy encounters or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, like, let me open my journal from the galaxy map.
Right.
And they doubled the amount of inventory space that you can have from like 150 to 300. But even 300 is like I still hate managing all this crap I'm picking up.
Yeah.
And like, why aren't there better solutions to that?
Oh, don't worry.
My deepest dive navigation nitpick is that when you hover over a quest icon on the map, triangle pops up, open journal, and you press it, and it just takes you to the top main mission in your journal, not the relevant mission.
Right.
That's one of those things that's like, what were they thinking not fixing that? And the sprinting thing, I'm sorry to go back to the sprinting thing, but it's
outrageous.
Like, I don't trust anything else you've done if you've put this in the game. 5 seconds of sprinting.
But they also let you do 5 seconds of sprinting in the Mako. Like the boost also has like that quick timer, which it's a shorter cooldown on that sucker. But yeah, it is just absurd. Let's see. Oh, also on the Galaxy Map stuff, Isaac wrote in asking, is anybody else, do they miss the little dumb ship icon? Or is it just me? I forgot about it. So Mass Effect 1, the original, there's like a little icon of the ship actually flying around, and they removed it for Legendary? Am I remembering that correctly, Joe?
No. I think this person is conflating future Mass Effect games.
Wait, so in a future one they have the little ship flying around?
In a future one there's a ship flying around, and that I think even the fuel of your ship becomes relevant.
Yes. Okay, you're right. I was really connecting those as well. You're right.
But I don't think that was originally in this one.
There we go. Okay, that's probably what he meant. I would think I was injecting that incorrect layer. The Chun writes in, we got the Chun, saying, I don't think I even need to mention one thing, because it's playing in our head right now, and that is the map music. Very excellent. Which
the way you set that up, I was sure you were gonna hit play on YouTube or something, and like we started hearing the music, but nope.
No, just nope.
We all hit play in our minds.
That's right. I don't even need to do it. Yeah, and like there's a good interview with Jack Wall that Austin Winnery, friend of the show, guest on Crossfade, our music podcast. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast app to hear Austin Winnery, famed composer, talk about Cat Stevens and music in general. Anyways, he also talks about what his beefs are with the Final Fantasy VII Remake soundtrack. But he has an interview with Jack Wall in the Game Maker's Toolkit podcast where they talk a lot about composing Mass Effect. And I didn't realize the extent that like that relationship really fell apart and Jack Wall and BioWare really went south. And he makes it seem like, it's kind of ego on both sides. And I definitely have a lot of regrets about that era, but it's really sad. But in that, he talks about how that map music was some of the earliest music ever written for Mass Effect. Like before they even knew anything about the game. That was like the demo application for another composer applying to work on a sci-fi game. So they just made this awesome piece of music. And they're like, well, there's no context for this. What can we do with it? And it's like, well, throw it on a menu or the ultimate menu, the galaxy map. And it's just the perfect spot for it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Austin S. writes in probably about something you were hinting at, Joe, but we don't need to go into it more. Austin says, I enjoyed a very short side mission called Dead Scientists in the Newton system. In this mission, you find a scientist working for an organization called Cerberus. They are basically doing evil experiments on soldiers. Specifically, there is one soldier who has come back for revenge on the scientist. As a renegade option, you have the option to kill the scientist yourself. I expected a less compassionate response from my renegade friendship, but was pleasantly surprised to hear that the reasoning for wanting to shoot the scientist yourself was so the soldier doesn't get marked as a criminal. As a Spectre, you will not be charged with any criminal activity compared to the soldier.
Yeah, I hit that moment and did the renegade option also, and was pleasantly surprised by that, because you always assume it's just like, I don't have time for this, pop pop pop, and instead it's that sort of that kind of it's kind of weird though, because there's a dissonance, because there are moments like that where it's like, oh wow, they really put some good thought into justifying these apparently renegade or evil actions. But then there are other times when it is just totally like, why are you being an asshole here, Shepard?
Right.
So
on Cerberus, I think there's also, I forget, it's something you can unlock, I believe, but there's like a little log entry, journal entry where they mention Cerberus as a company as well.
Yeah. There are a few. I mean, there's more than just Dead Scientists. There are a few missions that involve Cerberus. There's one, like, do you guys remember Admiral Kahoku, who is in the Citadel Tower? This is something that he gives you a side quest. It would have been at the very beginning of this section of the game. He's like trying to find something, some research team or something that went missing. I don't remember all of it, but anyway, he gets wrapped up in this sort of thing too. So I don't think it's spoilery to say, like, one of the interesting things about Mass Effect 1 and some of those side quests that seem kind of mechanical or throwaway actually are seeding pieces of the world or the lore for later stuff. Cerberus, we have not heard the end of Cerberus, and there are other things going on in some other side quests that, or planet descriptions or codex entries or other things like that that are laying groundwork that it's really cool. After you finish Mass Effect 3, you can go back and, like, they knew even then that was going to be important.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Neil Smith submits a comment that I'm just fascinated by, saying, on Elitania, the Consort's trinket unlocks a vision of Protheans studying ancient man. And Denim Harry also wrote in about it, saying, I've played Mass Effect 1 maybe 5 times before, but I'd never found the Prothean Neanderthal ball before. It's insane. I'm also interested to know if anyone else annihilated those ugly alien monkeys on Elitania, just to ease my conscience. Did you nuke those aliens, Joe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I nuked the aliens. Yeah.
So
that's a good example of what I was just talking about too. Like, that within the context of Mass Effect as a broader universe, that artifact on Elitania is even more interesting.
Yeah, I need to go do that side quest. I had never experienced that. That sounds cool. Josh writes in saying, I really appreciate how BioWare took narrative into account when considering some of the enemy encounters. For example, the side mission called Asari Diplomacy has you go on a mission for a Asari politician to rescue her from a space pirate slave ring. When you get to the pirate base, there's a wide variety of enemies and a few humans, Turians, Solarians, and one Asari whose name reads as Asari Slaver, with no other Asari in sight. It's in this moment you realize that the politician lied to you to get you to kill her sister because she was being blackmailed and feared her for her status on the Citadel. That is cool. The little name can be a tip-off. Leo, you want me to keep rolling with these?
Didn't we say we were doing side missions in the last part?
I think we said we're doing it this one.
Part 3?
We said we're doing it this one. We said so.
Well, I didn't want to do any of these anyway.
All right. Do you want to save, like, character side missions for part 3? We can always do that if you haven't done those yet, Leo.
Sure, yeah, I have it.
Okay. Yeah, we can save those. By and large. Let's see. Troy Ellison has a quick one here saying, here's what happens in the character side missions. Now, he says, one thing I liked about this section was the Citadel newscast. Anytime I returned to the Citadel, the elevator newscast would occasionally report on my actions in the game. I did a side quest involving taking out a cult leader by a former Alliance officer, and the next time I visited, I heard a report about the aftermath of that mission. I felt it was a good world-building technique to see my actions kind of ripple back through the game like that.
Yeah. I like that. I like that in the elevator chatter. I also like it in things like the Outer Worlds, where they have those sort of like newspaper clippings that show those things too. Like I know it seems like a really dumb and easy thing because it's like you as a player know what you've done. You don't need the game to tell you what you did.
Right.
But I think doing that still gives the players the sense of like that the world is reacting to them, that the world is noticing their presence. And I think that's valuable, even if the information it's giving you is stuff you already know.
Yeah, absolutely. Just that bit of feedback is crucial. Yeah. Also, I thought of Outer Worlds more on Noveria, because that whole thing about like, oh, research station at peak 15, something's going on. I just thought of like Monarch, and it's like, oh, it's like the radio tower on Monarch. It's so similar structurally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because like for as different as the tones of the games are overall, the Outer Worlds clearly took inspiration from Mass Effect in a lot of ways, but I still think it's interesting how well it feels like one section might fit it, like a section from one game might fit well into the other, you know?
Yeah, they should finally make the remix. Yeah. Chris Culkin submits a comment saying, message coming in, patching it through. Assuming you guys have talked about your squad, or have been talking to your squad mates from time to time, what's the deal with all of them except for Caden talking about their fathers? Rex's dad tried to kill him. Garrus's dad is disappointed he left C-Sec. Tally's dad is an admiral in the migrant fleet, so she feels extra pressure on her pilgrimage. Liara only knows that her father was an Asari that left Benezia, and Ashley's dad was Alliance military trying to redeem the Williams' legacy. Even in the subsequent games, they give more daddy issues to characters. Do you all have thoughts on why the writers chose these character beats? Anyways, I should go, says Chris.
They give the moms big, loud cleavage.
That's true. That's true. But I guess, I don't know. Is it just character backstory? What's backstory number one? Let's work through some daddy issues with all these characters. It's an easy one.
Yeah, I guess this had never occurred to me before. But I don't know. I guess it's one thing. There's part of me that wants to write it off and just say like, well, yeah, you talk to a character for long enough and you might learn something about their family.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like you have such limited dialogue options with these characters that I guess it is weird that that comes up so frequently in the limited time that you have.
Meanwhile, how much have you talked to Leo about his daddy issues?
That's true. I don't know anything about Leo's dad.
That's right. You don't.
So quit
Never
fronting,
asked
dude.
me.
Leo, how's your dad doing these days?
You don't care.
I like the Liara discussions about, when she basically just breaks in like, oh, okay, here's how Asari procreate, if you really want the details. But I think it's such an interesting idea about like, they can procreate with another Asari, but like once we got off the planet, Asari realized that like genetically it's so much more superior to interact with other races because you gain bits of their knowledge. And so like if you do it the old fashioned way, it's kind of just like incest now to like combine and fuse with another Asari. Ew.
I love the way that Liara explains like, oh, I'm a pureblood, but no Asari would say that to my face. Whereas normally like that's a term in like the Harry Potter world or something, right? Like that, like that's a term. If you're pure-blooded, normally that's like a point of pride for someone. And I like the fact that being pure-blooded in the Asari culture is an insult.
Right. I also like there's a line where Liara is talking to you, and of course she's obsessed with the fact that you've touched the Prothean beacon and all that stuff. And one of the options is you can just scream, "Don't try to study me!" Like, scared of her like taking a scalpel to you immediately or something. Let's see. Will Dane writes in with something that, God, I didn't know or I completely forgot about. You tell me, Will. They say, if you choose the Spacer background, Commander Shepard's mother is also an Alliance Navy captain. You can call her from the communications room, but the first thing she says is, I'm kind of busy right now. Is this important? And it's absolutely heartbreaking. This one line of dialogue instantly defines Shepard's relationship with her mother.
That's super cool.
I've never done that. That is so wild. And I mean, I don't remember Shepard's parents ever being a thing moving on. So Shepard doesn't have daddy issues or mommy issues because she's so abandoned by them. It's not even a factor. Let's see. Uncharted.
That's the definition of not having issues. Yep.
Clean slate. Has anybody ever?
I didn't choose that background for this playthrough, but I do remember that. I do remember that parent thing being a boy. That may even come back in later games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. The Uncharted Wolf. Yeah, I'm a colonist through and through, so I wish I could experience that, but I love my colony background. The Uncharted Wolf,
baby.
Ew, you're Earthborn? Blah.
Yeah, I used to roll with the 10th Street Reds, man.
Oh, yuck, bad boy.
There's a dumb. Well, I mean, there's a. Depending on your background, you get like a specific certain quests are available to you. Like each background has a quest that is available to you exclusively to that background.
I
right?
see.
So like, if you're Earthborn, the idea is that like you grew up in a rough neighborhood on Earth and like joined the military when you could. But what that means is that you used to roll with a gang called, I think they're called the 10th Street Reds. And some guy from your day in the Reds asks you to do a little favor for the gang.
Cool, man.
That was my dumb quest. Yep.
And what is the favor?
Let's see. Oh, he wants you to get one of the 10th Street Reds out of jail, or like basically wants you to like petition for leniency or something like that. And it turns out this guy is just like a total terrorist and like a racist terrorist.
Keep going.
Like he like it's like, yes, this guy wants to kill aliens specifically. And so as Shepard, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And then the guy was, basically like, I knew you didn't have it in you, Shepard.
Well, that's true. Apparently he didn't have it in you. I mean, Mr. Renegade over here is going back on every good Renegade option available to him.
Well, no, except this is like, it's a Renegade option to flip on this guy,
I see.
Like, it's not a Paragon thing necessarily. There's still sort of a Renegade way of telling the Reds to go stuff it. So anyway, yeah, it was fun.
Hey, the Uncharted Wolf. Leo, do you know what they did? They supported us on Patreon at like the $2 tier, any tier whatsoever, maybe even the $5 tier where they unlock the podcast version of this entire discussion. But they wrote in on Patreon there and they said, hey, cohorts, join the Patreon. Oh, I was setting this up just to be obnoxious, but I know they actually talked about it in this comment. I joined the Patreon just so I could talk about this masterpiece of a game in my first playthrough of it. I actually wanted to talk about Rex and how I was completely wrong about him. When I first met him, I expected him to be the RPG trope of big, strong guy like shooting. Instead, I found him to be one of the most compelling party members to speak to. I was so captivated whenever this big brute talked about the negative impact the genophage had on his species and his dream of one day reuniting the clans, the way he talked about his father as well, where even though he hates him, you could feel the almost betrayed tone in his voice. Garrison Tally are still my ride or dies, but I'm glad to have found a strong and dependable ally in old Rex. Yeah, it's such a good, fun structure for him telling his backstory about just rival clans, dealing with frustrations on his home planet, and then it's like, yeah, Jared, oh yeah, he was my father. I probably should have mentioned that a while ago. It's like, oh my God, Rex. Talk about daddy issues.
Yeah, Leo, are you taking the time to like walk around the ship and check in with your party members regularly?
I completely forgot that's a thing I should be doing, so I'm excited to do it now.
Oh wow, you should absolutely be doing that. That is the heart of Mass Effect in a lot of ways. There,
that's part of what's frustrating about it too, though, is that like this is back in the age of BioWare games where they kind of had weird gates on it, where it's like you can't just stop and like, all right, Rex, you and I are going to talk for 10 minutes and go through all of your dialogue options. It's like you'll have one conversation and then you might have to go do something and then you come back and then you can have another one. And it's like, but it's that kind of frustrating thing where you can talk to a character again and again and again, and they won't say anything new until you finish the next story mission or something. And then it's like, finally you go and you can check on them. But that also creates a weird, like, mechanical loop of, all right, well, I just finished Noveria. Time for me to go talk to Caden, talk to Liara, go down the elevator, talk to Tally, talk to Garrus,
And so Leo has just like missed all that stuff, or will it trigger after like a side quest or something?
I think he should be able to do. I mean, like if he's progressed this far, he should probably still be able to do it. I guess I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I'll report back.
Please do. Shameless Twitch says, I spent an embarrassing amount of time, by which I mean more than 0, one night, seeing if I could get the Mako to land upside down and stay that way. The closest I got was about a 10-second long upside down skid down a mountain and across a flat basin before the little guy flipped itself right up again. Also, all I can think of when driving the Mako around a new planet is that it's basically just a 3D version of Moon Patrol, that arcade game from the 80s. It's very Moon Patrol inspired, which is Andrew Renner's favorite arcade game of all time is Moon Patrol, he said.
Really?
Number 1, he
Favorite
says.
arcade game, not
Arcade.
game of all time.
I mean, maybe he'll stretch it. Yeah, no, arcade game.
Like one thing about that kind of exploration stuff that I find funny is that I guess this is more of a Mass Effect 2 comment, but like I think it's interesting when you look at that. It's like, what is fun or compelling about that kind of exploration in Mass Effect 1 to me is the stuff we were talking about before, right? Or like that sense of finding a beautiful place and sort of beholding the universe or whatever. The fun part of that is not mining minerals and doing mini games to get Turian insignias and stuff, right?
Right.
And yet, in the transition when they go to Mass Effect 2, that whole concept of like planetary exploration has been distilled solely down to like collect minerals.
Strip mine the galaxy. That's the whole thing. Yeah. Patrick, how he, I think, speaks for everybody when they chant, "Bring back the Mako." Whatever you're doing, BioWare, bring it back. Put it in Dragon Age 4, you cowards. Catherine Gilbert says, as a casual player that's not so good at shooter games, I love the mini-map with the red dots showing me where I'm in danger. Makes the game much more playable for me.
Yeah, and helps you hunt down the straggling, mercenary that's stuck in cover behind a crate and won't move.
Yes, exactly. What's going to trigger this cutscene?
And something else about, like, I'm reminded in those situations where you see a lot of red dots swimming around you, another good change in the Legendary Edition is that they've really cut down on the number of barks that characters have. I actually wish Sarah were here. We can ask her about this one in the next episode, because it's like enemies had very few lines that they could do, so they just did them all the time. Like you'd go into a room full of enemies and you'd hear, "I will destroy you. I will destroy you. Enemies everywhere.
Yeah.
I will destroy you."
Calibrating, right? Like the Garrus thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But it seems like I've rarely heard those barks ever in encounters in the Legendary Edition now.
That is true.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Andrew George asked, am I the only one jumping over my coffee table to grab the remote for the mute button on the mass relay load screens? It feels like they're trying to blow out my eardrums.
They get super loud. I also going back to the question about getting weird bugs before.
Yeah.
So as I was doing the infinite money exploit, traveling back and forth between the med clinic and the markets, there was a weird point where I'm making that trip frequently. So you go to the fast travel station, you go to one place, do your thing, go back and I kept hitting this thing where it's like the volume of the fast travel station would keep escalating. So it was like a little, like when you do it normally, you just hear a little nondescript like ping. But then like as I would continue making these trips in succession, it would feel like it got louder and louder to the point that it became like I had to mute my TV because it was hugely inordinately loud when I would just like access the fast travel station, and it's just this like ear-splitting ping would come through my speakers when I did it.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Mass relays, everything's louder in space. I think space kind of acts as like a magnifier for sound. I'm no scientist, but I believe that's the breakdown. So let's see. John G writes in and says, I love the detail that whenever Shepard leaves the Normandy, there's a voice message stating Presley is in command. Just a small detail that makes the world feel more lived in.
Yeah, I like that too.
It's really smart. Really
However,
smart. A couple of bones to pick with Presley.
I like that, but why does Presley, like, why can the computer say Presley but not Shepard? Why is it like why does Presley get a name, but Shepard's just commanding officer is ashore? XO Presley has the deck. Exo Presley stands relieved.
I mean,
You're just commanding officer.
If you had to program in the names, though, one has a much higher likelihood of dying at any moment, and that's the person flinging themselves around the galaxy fighting aliens. So, it's a safer move just to be like generic commander.
Yeah. Exo Presley's not going anywhere.
Oh, no, he's living for a million
He's there
years.
for keeps.
Yeah, he's living in a sorry life over there. Just 1,000 years on that ship. Andrew Burns writes in and says, anytime I play Mass Effect 1, there's something very specific I look forward to. The creepy Metroid-like ambient music that plays when entering a building on one of the Uncharted worlds. It's only about a minute long, but to me it perfectly accents the game's brilliant atmosphere, lens flares and all. I can dig it. I think the only music in this game that I don't like is the music that plays on Pharos, which is... It's just like this sad, somber flute that I just associate with like running back and forth in those hallways getting lost, man.
I don't know. Like, I don't have any specific, apart from the galaxy map and that title screen. I guess like a lot of the music doesn't stand out to me. I don't
What?
Know, like, I have a terrible ear for this. I don't know. Leo did like what?
No, don't try and shift this off to Leo. This is Joe Shame Corner. What are you talking about? Like the Citadel music isn't great. Like the music when you become a spectacle. What's the crux of the entire game? What's it called? Spectre. Yeah. That doesn't stand out to you?
No, I mean a lot of it does, but I mean like I don't like. I guess what I'd say like the set piece musical moments I like, but I don't like. I couldn't hum it or identify any of that sort of like ambient music.
The Citadel?
I guess I could identify that one just because I spent so much time there.
Yeah, I think you're not giving enough credit to just the music in these places. Okay, all right.
You should like it more.
Yeah, why aren't you giddy?
I want to know from Leo, who's playing for the first time, like how much are you noticing? How much does the musical landscape stand out to you?
Occasionally I go, oh, this is good, but I couldn't hum anything. I couldn't hum the main menu theme or whatever. I think with more time, obviously I could, but at this point, I appreciate it. But yeah, it hasn't I haven't gone out of my way to listen to it.
I mean, we can give you the time now, Leo, if you want to just try and remember how it goes. Jack Wall at his finest. Yarrow writes and it says, last time you guys talked about cool spin-offs in the Mass Effect games, and after reading some of the codex entries on the Solarian Special Task Group, they would make a cool Splinter Cell style stealth game. They discuss carrying out missions on shoestring resources, so having that element of trying to get by with little and infiltrating rogue operations could make for an interesting game. That's true. The Solarian Special Task Group. That would be a sweet direction. Just we're only focusing on a Solarian Special Task thing. But I think that's the type of like deep dive that Mass Effect fans would be on board for. Like, yeah, that's so specific. I'm interested.
Yeah. Well, and I like the idea of those groups existing in the world. They do tap into it a little bit in Mass Effect 3's multiplayer, which is not in. It's not in the Legendary Edition, but I think the idea is that like if you have a Solarian character, that they are essentially like a member of the STG, or that if you're an Asari, you are like one of the Asari commandos that, like Benezia had or something like that.
Yeah. Do you think a line that they should have added for Liara when she takes out the last enemy is she should say, Asari, not sorry?
Yes, I do believe that. Thank you.
I believe that pretty deep in my heart. Joe, you know what I found this weekend in a weird coincidence is I went out to like our lake place, which Leo's been to. It's just a garage with an arcade unit in it, basically on a lake. But we have like a DVD player out there, so something I'm very into now is like finding very cheap DVDs and just watching old movies there and stuff. Like, all right, we got Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's just gonna run on loop in the background of this lake place. And so I went out of my way to go to a dollar store and rummage through their DVD collection. And I found a DVD that was $15 at a dollar store, a DVD. And it was...
This one's got to be good.
It was the Mass Effect Paragon Lost animated film, which I had completely forgot even existed. Did you ever watch that, Joe?
Oh, boy. I think I did. I could not have even told you that existed until you told me, until you said Paragon Lost. And I'm like, Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like Vega's backstory from 3 or something, but it's just
Oh man, you know the thing that's so sad about that is that like all of those like game adjacent movies that come out suck so bad that even if you watch them, they're hardly like they just go in one side of your head and out the other. They are so insubstantial. I don't know.
Yeah, and I always just think of like, with like the direct-to-DVD Disney films and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always just amazed about like, yeah, I understand animation budget's going to be cheaper, but like, why does the script have to suck? Is it that much more expensive to write a good script compared to a bad script? Is it all just come down to time? And it's like, we have no iteration time possible. Your first draft is doable. Let's start animating Vega right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to look this up now. Did you buy it or no?
I would have if it was anything less than $15. That's outrageous. What have I made of money? Speaking of which,
I want to look it up.
Yeah, please do.
Laws.
See what it said on Rotten Tomatoes. In the meanwhile, I was just reminded they did announce a Mass Effect movie. According to Wikipedia here, talk of a Mass Effect film in Hollywood began in 2007. Oh, we got producer Avi Arad optioned the rights in 2008. That's the Spider-Man producer. And then they announced in 2010 that they were doing it. And it was reported that Mark, who wrote I Am Legend and Thor, was writing the screenplay. And so they had a big announcement, and then, of course, it just, like all movie adaptations of games, just slowly disappears. In August 2013, it was announced that Legendary Pictures would present the film to Universal Studios in the upcoming months, having distanced itself from the connection to Warner Brothers. It is up to Universal where the movie will happen. It ain't happening, folks.
No.
Joe, what'd you find?
I found that even after reading the Wikipedia description, I am not sure that I have seen this movie or not.
I think I'd like to watch it. Maybe I can find it for cheaper online. I'm sure it's just on YouTube or something. Anyways, Steve Bellagarde writes in and says, for me, leaving the Citadel is where the true Mass Effect experience begins. Going from location to location, dealing with characters and stories that are specific to that location, while all feeding into the main narrative, it takes on more of an episodic structure that really helps the pacing for me. Yeah, Leo, I think this section of the Deepest Dive is the most Mass Effect 2 of the 3 Deepest Dive chunks, where it does feel episodic, like mini adventure, mini adventure, mini adventure. So do you like that episodic structure versus a more focused thing, Leo?
I like that structure for sure. I mean, what I like so much about Pharos is it just felt like a Star Trek episode that you were in the middle of. Like as the layers of intrigue began to get revealed, I'm all on board for that. And again, yeah, that was the disappointing part about the other side stuff is it was like kind of episodic, but they weren't very meaty,
Right.
Weren't really doing unique things. It didn't feel like.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, the side episodes kind of feel like a little more like storyboards for Star Trek episodes rather than actual Star Trek episodes.
Right. For sure.
Playing with your toys on the same Star Trek little set.
Yeah. Or, it's like, or it's just the things like you don't see the action, right? It's like, here's a dead body. Something happened here rather than seeing it happen. It's like obviously I understand that there's budget for how much of game you can put in your game, but
of course.
It does feel like some interesting stories ended up being not being fully served because they were kind of pushed aside or minimized in that like side content way rather than being fleshed out more.
Yeah. But other beats we didn't hit for this section for anybody?
Boy,
I
feel like we've been pretty thorough.
I'd argue it's a pretty deep dive. Yeah. There's one other note that stood out to me is like throughout a lot of this section, even the first section, I had a lot of moments of how different really are these dialogue options. And like right at the end of this section for the main path, I feel like I really hit it where big old Joker goes, "What's our next move, Commander? Head for the Moo Relay?" And your dialogue options are not so fast, no, and there's no point. It's like, it has to be the same dialogue for each of those options, right? Like, what are you even doing here?
Did you test the theory?
No, I should have save scummed it. You're totally right, just to jump back through all that stuff. But all right, so that's it for this section of the Deepest Dive on Mass Effect. You can join us for the grand finale. That is going to be next week. So on Monday, June 7th. We have a comment up on Patreon at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, where you can submit a comment. So if you're watching this, thank you. If you've enjoyed it, you can help support it by jumping over to Patreon and submitting a comment for us to read about the ending of Mass Effect or anything else that we've missed. Correct something that we got horrifically wrong along the way, and submit it over on Patreon, and we'll read it for the grand finale where we're covering Vermeer and everything else in the game. All other side quests, all DLC, all that fun stuff.
I think just as a quick side note too, I think we had some really good comments in this one. I think that there's a lot of really insightful stuff going on there. I'm glad that people are so like engaged and interested in leaving such, I don't know, like specific feedback on it, you know?
Specific is always the key. Yes, just really focus in. Like we can only get to so many Mako comments, you know, and so try and find a unique angle for something that you're passionate about, and we'd be delighted to read it on the show for the grand finale of The Deepest Dive. All right, Joe, where can folks find you if they want to learn more about you and learn about your daddy issues?
Yeah, man, I'm on yuck. I'm on Twitter at Joe Juba, all one word. You know, spelled like it sounds. It's just very intuitive.
Yeah, that's good. Leo, people are upset that I didn't ask you for a plug at the end of the first discussion for The Deepest Dive. So please, what would you like to plug, Leo?
Oh, check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/LeoVader. If you've liked my E3 stuff in the past, it's like that, but about other topics besides video games.
How's everything?
Leo, if you could point someone towards one video on your channel, what one should they check out?
That Now You See Me video I am really happy with. Not just because it got big, but watching that again, I'm really satisfied with that. I think it's got a great pace.
Yeah.
Love that one also.
Do you feel a pull because your most successful content is about like TV and entertainment, which it felt like wasn't really a central idea for like the YouTube channel, but do you feel compelled now to like, oh, maybe I should steer it more in that direction because people are much more interested in clicking on that type of stuff?
I think it'll be, you know, every other or every third, I feel like can be about that. And it's like super fun to do. And certainly I spend as much or more time watching TV and movies than I do playing games, you know? It's like a big part of my life. So I think I would have a lot to say about it. So yeah, I'm excited to get into that more.
Nice. Watching us live, by the way, at the Backstage Pass $10 tier on Patreon, Zach E says, I love your ketchup video, Leo.
Thank you. That's my new one. Ketchup, good or bad? I answer it for good.
There it is. Check it out over at youtube.com/LeoVader. All right. Thanks to everybody for submitting a comment. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being great sports, for listening along, playing along, following along. A lot of people are doing their best to have that first episode of The Deepest Dive hit 1 million views, so we end up doing Deepest Dives for the entire trilogy, but I don't think it'll happen, but we'll try and find something. I don't know if it's going to be like a max spoilers if Leo finishes 2 and 3, or we'll try and find some way to satisfy it if Leo in particular feels compelled and has the time to continue, because I think it's going to be really interesting to see. Or even honestly, Leo, I don't want to force your hand while we're alive, but like if you just like streamed like the opening of Mass Effect 2, I would love to see that. Like that is a really compelling idea.
That'd be fun.
To me.
That's all I've heard is like I will at least want to dip my toes in Mass Effect 2 no matter what. And
yeah.
Everyone says the opening is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really
very cool.
All right. Thanks so much for watching and listening, everybody. We'll see you next week for the grand finale of The Deepest Dive. Be good, have fun. Let's go. Okay, Backstage Pass. Time to let her rip. This game fucking sucks. BioWare is shit.
Ben, we're still live.
Oh, I don't care. Backstage Pass gets it all, baby.
Ass Effect.
Oh! Dunk, 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 dunk.
I like the darkness that goes in Leo's new space there too.
Wait, no, your lighting's changing. Oh my God! Now we're.
Effect.
Leo, do you think we're talking too much? I know at times you're comfortable being quiet, but I always just worry about like, crap. Do you think I could do to make Leo more engaged? I don't know.
I think your guys' input is much more valuable than mine for this type of content. I'm happy to chime in and to be here and to be a unique perspective amongst you all.
Yeah.
But I think like people who want to listen to this want to listen to what people who like are really invested in it.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, I'm very curious in that newcomer perspective. So don't be shy just because you think this is what people want. Like, I think it's really interesting to hear like somebody's fresh perspective on these planets and these characters that we know so well.
Yeah, because I feel like, I don't know, I try to shut up when I can, but I tend to go off on a roll sometimes when we're talking about Mass Effect stuff. So you can also feel free to just interrupt me or shut me up.
Aaron T says, I think Leo's perspective is stronger, to be honest. I'm very interested in newcomer thoughts. Like, yeah, I know you felt like a dingus when you were like, "Doi, is Tally an assassin?" But like, I thought that was like, I think that's interesting to like, just like those basic misconceptions about these huge characters. You know, it's like why you're always searching for streamers who are just playing Rainbow Six Siege for the first time. You know, it's just like really fun. I don't know. There's some analogy there that would work, but you get the idea. Oh, Zachy says, I like the fresh perspective, but only if it's positive. Don't you fucking dare share your real thoughts on the game, Leo.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks, Backstage Passers. Bye.